Chapter 896. Mo-ing and Mo-dozi, Mo-ing from the heavenly peak Devil Palace? Within the valley, everyone was stunned for a moment when the Buddha demon Bodhi tree was snatched away by the black figure. Soon after, an uproar broke out. All of them recognized the figure that was covered by the black fog. It was the top genius of the Heaven Peak Devil Palace, Missouri-ing. Heavenly Peak Devil Palace, you are getting more and more presumptuous. How dare a junior snatch something in front of me? I think you are courting death. Qing Shuzi regained his senses and his face was ghastly pale. He pointed at the empty space with his right hand and thousands of sword radiances flew out and gathered in the sky. Soon after, the thousands of sword radiances turned into a huge void sword. Swoosh! The huge void sword fell from the sky towards the fleeing black figure at lightning speed. Mo-ing, who was shrouded in black fog, also sensed the terrifying void sword falling from the sky. His face changed slightly as he screamed and quickly retreated. Rumble! The sword of the void, which was hundreds of feet long, slammed into the front of the demonic shadow like a huge mountain, blocking the demonic shadow's path. Terrifying and sharp sword essence erupted from the sword of the void and swept towards the demonic shadow. Demonic shadow world! Mo-ing screamed and terrifying black fog spread out. It turned into thousands of demonic shadows and covered the sky. It was so dazzling that no one could tell which one was the real one. Boom, boom, boom. Unfortunately, this sword intent also split into tens of thousands of rays and shot towards the tens of thousands of demonic figures. Immediately, the demonic figures that were pierced by the sword intent all collapsed, leaving behind only a single figure that let out a muffled groan and retreated. Mo-ing, you're quite bold to actually dare to snatch the Buddha demon Bodhi tree from my hands. You're simply courting death. Qing Shuzi's hair and beard fluttered as he looked at the looming demonic shadow in the black fog. His eyes were filled with bone-chilling coldness. Senior Qing Shuzi, do you think I would dare to come here alone with you guarding the valley? A mocking sneer came from the black fog. The demon Daozi from the Heavenly Peak Devil Palace is also here? Qing Shuzi knitted his brows and said in surprise. Boom! As soon as Qing Su's words left his mouth, endless black mist gathered in the void. Then, a huge demonic figure loomed in the black mist. Then, the huge black fog sank and formed an inverted funnel, looking like a terrifying tornado. At the mouth of the inverted funnel, a figure slowly stepped out. This person had black hair, black eyes, and was dressed in a black robe. Even his lips were eerily black. He looked like a real devil who was looking down at Qing Shuzi. Qing Su, is it really okay to slander me behind my back? Master Demon looked at Qing Su indifferently and said coldly. Whoosh! Demon Shadow turned into a black light and arrived beside Master Demon. Demon Shadow waved his right hand and the Buddha demon Bodhi tree immediately cupped his hands and handed it over to Master Demon. Honorable Palace Master, the Buddha demon Bodhi tree is most suitable for you. Only you are worthy of possessing this item, Mo-ing said respectfully. Master Demon nodded and took the Buddha demon Bodhi tree from Demon Shadow. His pitch-black eyes revealed a trace of satisfaction as he said coldly, Demon Shadow, you have done a great service this time. I will reward you when we return. Demon Shadow kowtowed excitedly and said, Thank you, Palace Master. Chapter 897. A thought to become Buddha, a thought to become demon. The figure was like a ghost as it approached the soil where the demon Buddha Bodhi tree grew. Neither Qing Su-zi nor demon Dao-zi noticed this figure. After all, their goal was the demon Buddha Bodhi tree. Now that the demon Buddha Bodhi tree had been extracted, they naturally wouldn't pay attention to the forest of dead branches that was still empty. Zhuan quietly stared at the ground beneath his feet. In the middle of the dead branches, there was a rather deep hole. This hole originally contained the demon Buddha Bodhi tree. Moreover, Zhuan discovered that the soil here was actually pale gold. It looked extremely strange. When his right hand touched the pale gold soil, Zhuan discovered that the great sun nirvana force in his body was cheering as it constantly surged and boiled. This golden soil has such rich Buddhist energy. Feeling the excitement of the great sun nirvana force, Zhuan whispered with a blazing gaze. This is the Buddha-demon dual pole soil. There is both Buddhist energy and demonic energy in it. It is quite beneficial for Buddhist and demonic cultivators. Kid, since you have a Buddhist technique like the Great Sun Nirvana force in your body and also have the experience of becoming a demon, this Buddha-demon dual pole soil will be quite beneficial for you. Xiao He said to Zhuan. Nodding his head, Yuan waved his right hand and Yuan power spurted out. The Buddha-demon dual pole soil below was instantly absorbed into Zhuan's spirit ring. However, what disappointed Zhuan was that there wasn't a lot of Buddha-demon dual pole soil. It was only the size of a palm. Kid, don't be greedy. You don't know how precious this Buddha-demon dual pole soil is. After all, this soil grew a strange treasure like the demon Buddha Bodhi tree. In a sense, this soil is even more precious than the demon Buddha Bodhi tree. Xiao He cautiously said. Scratching his head, Yuan also knew that he was being too greedy. However, he seemed to have thought of something and asked Xiao He, since this Buddha-demon dual pole soil is so precious, would Qing Su Zi and Demon Dao Zi know about it? If he knew, he might even come back. You're right. This is not a good place. You're too weak right now. Let's not talk about Demon Daoist or Qing Shuzi. Even Zui Qingfeng and Mo Ying, the two juniors from the Xuanzun realm, would be enough to deal with you. Xiao He nodded. Just as Zhuan was about to leave, Zhuan discovered that the Great Sun Nirvana force in his body had not calmed down. Instead, it was becoming more and more intense. Both the Buddha and Devil Polar Earth have been obtained by me. Why is the Great Sun Nirvana power still unwilling to give up? Narrowing his eyes, Zhuan's face revealed a rare expression of deep thought. He softly said, perhaps there is something under the soil that caused such a strange change to occur in the Great Sun Nirvana force. As he spoke, Zhuan's right hand formed a claw and reached down. Immediately, Zhuan dug out a large hole. There's another world below? Zhuan's eyes flickered. His right palm once again spat out an even more vigorous yuan power, causing the underground cave to continuously expand. Boom! Finally, a muffled thunder-like sound rang out. The cave had been broken open by Zhuan to the size of a person, revealing a deep and serene passageway below. There's actually a passageway below. Don't tell me there's still some secret inside? Xiao He also arrived in front of the passageway in a flash. Her black eyes revealed a look of deep thought. Let's go in and take a look. As he spoke, Yuan led Xiao He into the passageway. At the same time, Yuan also carefully covered the entrance with soil. If he did not lift the soil, an ordinary person would not be able to see that there was another world below. Swoosh! Following the passageway, Yuan swiftly rushed towards the depths. In a short while, they had arrived at the depths. This was a rather spacious stone cave. The surrounding rock walls were protruding in an irregular manner. However, the instant Yuan entered this stone cave, his gaze was attracted by a statue in the middle of the stone cave. The statue's appearance was that of a young man. However, the strange thing was that this young man's appearance was extremely strange. The left side of his face was calm and peaceful, while the right side was overbearing and savage. It was as if two different personalities were present on this person's body. A thought to become Buddha, a thought to become demon. Buddha and demon cannot coexist. Both will eventually turn to ashes. A faint sigh suddenly slowly spread out in this stone cave. Subsequently, Yuan saw countless rock fragments falling from the surface of the strange stone statue in front of him. When all the fragments fell, a golden glow and a black glow simultaneously emitted from the stone statue. Subsequently, an ancient Buddha and a demon respectively stepped out from the golden glow and the black glow. The two illusory figures stared at each other without saying a word. Subsequently, the ancient Buddha and the demon struck out with their palms. Rumble! The golden glow and the black glow collided, erupting into a golden and black light pillar that rushed towards the sky. Under the effect of this golden and black light pillar, the entire stone cave trembled violently, as if it was about to collapse. Damn it! What's going on? I've only just entered. Why is this strange phenomenon happening to the statue all of a sudden? Zhuowen's footsteps staggered. His gaze became extremely solemn as he stared intently at the golden and black light pillar in front of him. He did not believe that the golden and black light pillar would appear so inexplicably. There must be something inside that caused it. Indeed, at the center of the golden and black light pillar, an oval-shaped object the size of a thumb appeared in front of Zhuan. This is the demonic Buddha Bodhi seed? No wonder this place has the demonic Buddha earth and the demonic Buddha Bodhi tree. It's all to conceal the demonic Buddha Bodhi seed. Xiaohei also noticed the oval-shaped object at the center of the light pillar and could not help but exclaim, "Demonic Buddha Bodhi seed?" Seeing Xiaohei's astonishment, Zhuan could not help but be moved. This was also the first time he had heard of the demonic Buddha Bodhi seed. Don't ask any more. Quickly keep this demonic Buddha Bodhi seed and leave. Right now, this demonic Buddha Bodhi seed has caused quite a commotion. If we don't leave now, I'm afraid we won't be able to. Xiaohei quickly said. Nodding his head, Yuan did not hesitate. With a stroke of his right hand, the demonic Buddha Bodhi seed was stored in his spirit ring. Instantly, the golden and black light pillar that soared into the sky came to an abrupt stop as if it had never happened. Let's go! After putting away the demonic Buddha Bodhi seed, Yuan took a step forward and quickly flew up the tunnel. At this moment, the disciples of the Clear Void Valley were gathered outside the valley. They raised their heads and looked at Qing Su and Demon Taoist who were still in a fierce battle, as well as Zui Qingfeng and Mo Ying. They were all secretly cheering for Qing Su and Zui Qingfeng. A golden and black light pillar soared into the sky, attracting the attention of many disciples outside the valley. Why did such a golden and black light pillar suddenly appear? It seems to be coming from the direction of the valley. Could there be some kind of treasure in the valley? The disciples of the Clear Void Valley were all discussing spiritedly. However, the golden and black light pillar only appeared for a short period of time before disappearing without a trace, causing them to be even more puzzled. At this moment, Qing Shuzi, Demon Daozi, Zui Qingfeng and Emoing had all stopped fighting. They had also noticed the golden black pillar of light that soared into the sky. They had even discovered that the Buddhist and demonic energy emitted from the pillar of light was extremely dense. Qing Su's eyes flickered. He took a step forward and actually ignored Demon Taoist as he rushed towards the valley. Unfortunately, before Qing Su could take a few steps, a huge black sword fell from the sky and blocked his path. Demon Taoist, there are other treasures in the valley. Do you still want to continue fighting? Qing Su took a few steps back and roared at Demon Taoist who was behind him in a flustered and exasperated manner. I have the demonic Buddha Bodhi tree, and that's enough. Right now, I only want to see who's stronger. Could it be that the dignified Clear Void Valley's sect master is actually so cowardly that he's afraid of fighting? Demon Taoist's pitch-black pupils indifferently stared at Qing Su. His voice was still as cold and emotionless as before. It was impossible to detect any fluctuations in his emotions at this moment. You're a madman. Qing Su's expression was ugly. He knew that Demon Taoist was someone who wouldn't give up until he achieved his goal. Now that he was entangled by Demon Taoist, he had to admit that he was really unlucky. Qingfeng, go to the valley and take a look. If there's anything, snatch it. Qing Su instructed Zui Qingfeng. His right hand formed a sword seal and rushed towards Demon Taoist. Come on. Demon Taoist coldly shouted. He swung the demon sword and a terrifying demonic power filled the entire sky as he rushed towards Qing Su. In an instant, the two collided once again and a terrifying power erupted. Zui Qingfeng nodded and coldly glanced at Mo Ying. I'm not going to play with you anymore. After saying that, Zui Qingfeng took a step forward and flew towards the direction of the valley. Mo Ying's lips curled up slightly. He did not continue to fight with Zui Qingfeng. Instead, he leisurely followed behind Zui Qingfeng. He also wanted to see what was going on in the valley. Soon, the two arrived in the sky above the valley one after the other. Then they saw the scene of the valley riddled with holes. Other than the valley riddled with holes, there was also a Clear Void Valley disciple in a green and white robe. At this moment, this Clear Void Valley disciple was walking towards the outside of the valley. This Clear Void Valley disciple was transformed by Zhuan using the 100 transformation technique. After Zhuan obtained the demon Buddha Bodhi seed, he rushed out of the tunnel without stopping. At the same time, he wanted to quickly leave the valley. Once he mixed in with the numerous Clear Void Valley disciples, even if Qing Su personally came, Zhuan wouldn't be afraid of being recognized. However, what Zhuan didn't expect was that just as he was about to leave the valley, Zui Qingfeng and Mo Ying actually came back ahead of him. Zui Qingfeng looked around the valley and didn't find anything suspicious. He couldn't help but slightly frown. Mo Ying sneered and immediately arrived above Zhuan. He looked down at Zhuan and said, "What happened here just now?" The Zhuan in front of him was only an ultimate third-wheel emperor. Mo Ying could tell at a glance that a cultivator of this level was like an ant in his eyes. Therefore, Mo Ying didn't have any scruples when speaking. Zhuan shook his head blankly and said, "This lowly one also doesn't know." Just now, the golden black pillar of light appeared for a very short period of time. I only saw the pillar of light emanating from there. As he spoke, Zhuan pointed at the soil where the demon Buddha Bodhi tree was planted. Could it be that there's something else in that soil? Chapter 898. Exposed tracks, stay in there. If what you said is true, I will release you from your shackles when I come out. However, if you lie, the moment I come out will be the day you die. The devil shadow said indifferently. Zhu Qingfeng arrived above Zhuan and coldly stared at the devil shadow. Devil shadow? What do you mean by this? You dare to secretly bind a disciple of my Clear Void Valley. Zhu Qingfeng, can you not be so naive? Just now, the golden black pillar of light appeared for too short a period of time. This goes against common sense. How can the appearance of a treasure be so short? There is only this person in the valley. If we enter the cave and find that there is nothing inside, then it is very likely that the thing inside was taken by this person. This is also for insurance. Moreover, I didn't kill this person. The devil shadow's cold voice slowly sounded. A pair of inhuman eyes stared coldly at Zui Qingfeng through the black fog. Hearing this, Zui Qingfeng was silent. Actually, when he first entered the valley, he also suspected this Clear Void Valley disciple in front of him. However, as the eldest senior brother of the Clear Void Valley, he naturally felt embarrassed to act against a fellow disciple. Junior brother. Sorry for inconveniencing you. Zui Qingfeng looked apologetically at Zhuan in the black fog. Then, with a step, he rushed towards the cave that appeared in the forest of dead branches. Hypocrite! This is your Clear Void Valley's eldest senior brother. Now, take a good look at his ugly face. The devil shadow laughed mockingly. Not to be outdone, he followed behind Zui Qingfeng and entered the cave, leaving Zhuan in the black fog with an ugly expression. This devil shadow is really vigilant. Xiaohei, we must quickly break through this black fog. Otherwise, when the devil shadow and Zui Qingfeng come out, they won't let me off easily. Zhuan hurriedly said to Xiaohei. Don't look at this dragon lord. Xiaohei crawled out of the spirit ring and snorted. My essence is almost depleted, and you still want me to be a coolie? From Xiaohei's appearance, Zhuan knew that Xiaohei was probably powerless as well. After all, Xiaohei's injuries were no better than Zhuan's. She had used up too much of her origin energy in the battle with the Azure Emperor. Boom! Boom! Zhuan spat out a palm strike and smashed into the surrounding black fog. Zhuan felt as if he had fallen into a swamp. His entire body rebounded, and his face turned gloomy. Brat! Try the demonic Buddha Bodhi seed. This demonic Buddha Bodhi seed contains a powerful demonic Buddha power. Perhaps it can break through this black fog, Xiaohei suddenly said. Hearing this, Zhuan nodded. With a flick of his finger, the demonic Buddha Bodhi seed that was flickering with golden and black light appeared between his fingers. You have the nirvana power of the great sun in your body. Use this power to guide the Buddha power in the demonic Buddha Bodhi seed to break through the black fog, Xiaohei instructed. Pissed, Zhuan pointed his right finger at the demonic Buddha Bodhi seed. Suddenly, a powerful Buddha power flowed into Zhuan's body through the golden left side of the Bodhi seed. Boom! Feeling the powerful Buddha power, Zhuan immediately unleashed the nirvana power of the great sun, forming a four-headed and eight-armed form. Then, Zhuan transformed into a 100-feet-tall body in a golden light. His power was terrifying. He threw out a punch and the air exploded. Suddenly, the surrounding black fog rolled wantonly. The black fog was completely covered by the golden light. In an instant, the black fog turned into nothingness. Zhuan waved his right hand and put the demonic Buddha Bodhi seed into his spirit ring. Then he rushed toward the entrance of the valley. With the help of the demonic Buddha Bodhi seed's surging Buddha power, Zhuan could temporarily unleash an attack that was comparable to a Xuanzun realm expert. However, it could not last long. Therefore, after Zhuan escaped from the black fog, he ran away. He did not want to be chased by Mo Ying and Zui Qingfeng. At this moment, inside the stone cave, two figures came out side by side. Mo Ying and Zui Qingfeng looked at each other. Their faces were not very good. Because in the stone cave, other than the broken pieces of the statue, there was nothing else. There must be a treasure in here. But now, there is only a pile of ruins. Needless to say, the treasure must have been taken away by that disciple of your clear void valley. Mo Ying snorted coldly. He took a step forward and rushed toward the tunnel. Zui Qingfeng's face was not very good either. He was the eldest senior brother of the clear void valley and was loved and respected by countless disciples. Generally speaking, if that junior brother of his had obtained a treasure, he would not have hidden it from him. However, the current situation made Zui Qingfeng somewhat unhappy. Thinking of this, Zui Qingfeng followed closely behind and rushed out of the tunnel. Not good. My black fog prison was broken. How is this possible? That guy is clearly only an ultimate three-wheel emperor. How could he have broken my black fog prison? In the tunnel, Mo Ying cried out in surprise. His face was filled with both shock and anger as he rushed forward at an even faster speed. Behind him, Zui Qingfeng naturally heard Mo Ying's words and his face was filled with disbelief. Mo Ying was an expert of the Xuanzun realm after all. Breaking his black fog prison was not something an ultimate emperor could do. Moreover, the disciple who was trapped was only an ultimate three-wheel emperor. In an instant, Zui Qingfeng realized that there was definitely something wrong with that disciple. Swoosh swoosh. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Mo Ying and Zui Qingfeng both arrived on the surface at the same time. The two of them discovered that the black fog that had trapped Zhuowen was no longer there and Zhuowen's figure had also disappeared. There really is something wrong with that guy. However, did he really think that my black fog prison was so easy to break? Mo Ying snorted coldly. He took a step forward and rushed toward the entrance of the valley. Zui Qingfeng looked pensive as he followed behind Mo Ying. At this moment, a considerable number of clear void valley disciples had gathered at the entrance of the valley. They were all looking curiously into the valley but none of them dared to enter. Zhuowen silently blended into the crowd. When he had stealthily walked out of the valley, he had blended into the crowd of clear void valley disciples. With the powerful effects of his 100 transformations technique, Zhuowen knew that it would be very difficult for Mo Ying and Zui Qingfeng to find him in this crowd. Senior brother, I've finally found you. What happened in the valley? How could there be such a terrifying vibration? A short disciple suddenly rushed to Zhuowen's side and patted Zhuowen's shoulder as he asked with a smile. Turning his head, Zhuowen looked at the short disciple in front of him. He immediately recognized that this person was the junior brother who had been guarding the entrance of the valley at the beginning. Silently pulling the short disciple to a remote and inconspicuous corner, Zhuowen briefly told him what had happened in the valley. Zhuowen's performance naturally did not attract the attention of the other disciples. After all, the surrounding people were also discussing what had happened in the valley. The demon Taoist and Mo Ying of the Heavenly Peak Demon Palace have both come? How despicable! They actually dared to snatch the demon Buddha Bodhi tree from the hands of the sect master. How despicable! Hearing Zhuowen's story, the short disciple's face flushed red as he angrily muttered in a low voice. Swoosh swoosh. The sudden appearance of two figures in the valley attracted the attention of many disciples. When these disciples discovered that the ones who had appeared in front of them were actually Mo Ying and Zui Qingfeng, their gazes revealed a strange expression. Looking at the appearance of these two people, it seemed that they had walked out of the valley together. Weren't the two of them engaged in a fierce battle just now? How come they were now at peace? Zhuowen's heart thumped. He pulled the short disciple and quietly hid in a crowded place with his head slightly lowered. He tried to restrain the aura in his body as much as possible. Do you really think you can escape from my palm? My black fog does not only have the effect of trapping people. Mo Ying looked down at the numerous disciples of the clear void valley below. His cold voice slowly rang out as he continued, I'll give you a chance now. Take the initiative to come out and I can spare your life. Otherwise, when I find you later, everything will be too late. Mo Ying, don't be too arrogant. Our senior brother is still behind you. Mo Ying, you, a member of the Heavenly Peak Demon Palace, actually dares to shout in front of our clear void valley. You're looking down on our clear void valley too much, aren't you? Senior brother. This Mo Ying is unfilial. Let's take him down together. Mo Ying's actions undoubtedly aroused the indignation of the numerous clear void valley disciples below. Sounds of gnashing teeth rang out one after another. They wanted nothing more than to capture Mo Ying. Mo Ying sneered, Hee hee. Your senior brother still needs me to find the guy who stole the treasure? Why would he care about me? Mo Ying, don't be too arrogant. Quickly find the guy who stole the treasure. Zue Qingfeng's gaze was somewhat cold as he coldly said, He can't wait anymore? Mo Ying laughed mockingly. However, he no longer mocked and ridiculed. Instead, he waved his hands. Strands of black fog immediately gathered in his hands and finally turned into a crow. Go, find that guy. Mo Ying's right hand loosened. The crow formed by the black fog spread its wings and flew towards the clear void valley disciples below. After circling above for a while, it actually let out a cry and flew towards an unremarkable group of people. Finally, it stopped on the head of an unremarkable tall disciple. Senior brother? The short disciple beside Zhuowen looked at Zhuowen with some astonishment. The crow released from Mo Ying's hand had stopped on Zhuowen's head. Although the short disciple completely did not understand the situation, he also knew that the senior brother beside him who he was familiar with most likely did not do anything good in the valley. Otherwise, it would not have attracted the pursuit of Mo Ying and Zue Qingfeng. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Gazes gathered on Zhuowen's body. These gazes were filled with confusion, doubt, gloating, and various other emotions. I've said it before. You can't escape from my palm. Die for me and hand over the treasure. Mo Ying laughed cruelly. With a step, he instantly arrived above Zhuowen. With a press of his right hand, countless black fog transformed into a huge black palm and pressed down on Zhuowen. It's over. This junior brother is finished. I don't know what kind of enmity he has with Mo Ying to make him personally attack. Chapter 899. White Brow Heavenly Sovereign Release. Zhuowen's aura was clearly only that of an ultimate three-wheel emperor, while Mo Ying was a top genius of Yen City and an expert of the Xuanzuan realm. They were on completely different levels, so everyone looked at Zhuowen with pity. Zhuowen raised his head slightly, his long hair swaying in the wind. With a flick of his finger, the demonic Buddha Bodhi seed appeared in his hand once more. Zhuowen's cultivation had yet to recover. If he wanted to use the power of the Xuanzuan realm, he could only rely on the Buddhist energy within the demonic Buddha Bodhi seed. Great Sun Nirvana Fate. With a low shout, a golden light burst forth. Zhuowen transformed into a four-headed, eight-armed figure. His body continued to expand until he was 100 feet tall. Break! A thunderous voice rang out from Zhuowen's mouth, shooting straight into the clouds. His 8 arms struck out at the same time, carrying a terrifying might as they smashed towards the black palm. Bang! When the two collided, gold and black spread and exploded, dyeing the empty space in a strange gold and black color. Countless hurricanes swept out, causing the ground to crack like a ravine. Zue Qingfeng's complexion changed slightly. He stomped his foot and waved his right hand. A powerful wave of elemental energy shot out, pushing the nearby clear void valley disciples away from the range of Mo Ying and Zhuowen's attacks. Boom! An explosive sound rang out. Soon after, everyone was shocked to discover that the demonic shadow's black palm had actually been annihilated. As for Zhuo Wen, who had transformed into a 300-meter-tall giant, he was forced to retreat dozens of steps. Every step he took caused the ground to tremble violently. "Go!" Zhuan shouted. His 100-feet-tall figure instantly shrank. Then, 3 pairs of lightning wings unfurled on his back. He turned into a bolt of lightning and shot towards the dense forest. "Want to leave? Not a chance." The demon shadow's gaze was sinister as he shouted coldly and chased after Zhuan. He hadn't expected Zhuan to be able to resist his attack even though his opponent's aura was clearly only at the level of an ultimate 3-wheel emperor. This was truly inconceivable. It wasn't just emoing. Even the disciples of the clear void valley on the ground had their mouths agape. Their faces were filled with disbelief. An ultimate 3-wheel emperor-level disciple of their clear void valley actually had the strength to resist emoing. This was truly too shocking. The one who was most surprised was the short disciple. He knew the tall disciple very well, but now the tall disciple had displayed such a powerful strength that he was dumbfounded. When did senior brother become so powerful? The short disciple muttered to himself with a complicated look in his eyes. Zue Qingfeng, on the other hand, had a calm face. He turned into a ray of light and followed behind Emoing. Even though Zue Qingfeng was somewhat astonished by Zhuowen's powerful strength, in any case, Zhuowen's identity was now a disciple of their clear void valley. Therefore, Zue Qingfeng felt embarrassed to make a move in front of so many junior brothers. An ultimate 3-wheel emperor-level cultivator is able to resist the demon shadow of the Xuanzuan realm. This person must have relied on the unique treasure he obtained from the stone cave to accomplish this, Zue Qingfeng muttered to himself. Zue Qingfeng muttered to himself in a low voice, his eyes blazing. He knew that if his theory was correct, then the heavenly treasure would be extremely powerful. I, Zue Qingfeng, will definitely obtain this unique treasure at all costs. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. 3 figures instantly swept across the dense forest and arrived above the open space where Wan Lingyu, Xiaoyan Pu, and the others had set up camp. "Let's see where you're going to run off to. I've never seen anyone escape from me, Oing." Mo Ying's cold voice resounded through the open space. It was like rolling thunder that constantly reverberated in the ears of Xiaoyan Pu and the others. "What? It's actually the monstrous genius of the Celestial Peak Devil Palace, Missouri Ing? Who's that fleeing person in front of us? He actually provoked Mo Ing to chase after him?" Lung Ing leapt to her feet. Her beautiful eyes were filled with shock. The others' expressions were similar to Lung Ying's. They all raised their heads to look at the sky. Sure enough, they saw Mo Ing shrouded in black fog and Zhuon with 3 wings on his back several hundred meters in front of Mo Ing. Isn't that the middle-aged man who barged into the dense forest up ahead? Why is he wearing the Clear Void Valley's disciple uniform? Seeing Zhuowen's 3 pairs of lightning wings, many people in the open space recalled the sallow-faced middle-aged man who had barged into the Clear Void Valley without permission. Moreover, because Yun was very far away from the open space, many people were unable to see Zhuowen's face. They could only see his back. This was also why they unanimously believed that the figure was a middle-aged man. Xiaoyan Pu's gaze slightly darkened. Those 3 pairs of lightning wings were not unfamiliar to him. Wasn't that the secret escape technique Zhuowen used? Xiaoyan Pu knew that the person being chased by Mo Ing was definitely Zhuon. What a reckless fellow. He actually provoked Mo Ing. Now he's dead for sure. Xiaoyan Pu's gaze slightly shifted as he sneered in a low voice. Another figure flitted across the open space. This person was wearing a cyan robe with a jade-colored wine gourd hanging from his waist. His long hair was draped over his shoulders. Isn't this person Zhe Qingfeng from the Clear Void Valley? Like Mo Ing, he's also in the top 5 of the Flame God list. Could it be that he's also chasing after that person? Zue Qingfeng flashed across the open space and immediately attracted the attention of the people in the open space. After recognizing Zue Qingfeng, the uproar in the open space became even more intense than before. Xiaoyan Pu was also unable to remain calm. What exactly did Zhuon do to actually provoke 2 of the top 5 geniuses of Yen City, Zue Qingfeng and Mo Ing, to chase after him at the same time? If this matter were to spread to Yen City, it would definitely cause a sensation. But this Mo Ying's speed is actually so fast. Even if I use the 6 wings of wind and thunder, I still can't shake him off? Zhuowen's brows slightly knitted as his gaze slightly darkened. This Mo Ying's cultivation technique should be related to speed. This person's speed can be considered relatively fast in the Xuanzun realm. Even though your 6 wings of wind and thunder is pretty fast, it's a pity that it's incomplete and can't display its true power. Xiao He arrived on Zhuowen's shoulder and said lightly, "Then what should I do? Being chased by this Mo Ying is not a solution." Zhuowen said somewhat anxiously, "Boy, take out the nascent soul of that old dog Bai Mei. This dragon lord will help you escape." Xiao He rolled his eyes and suddenly said, although he was puzzled in his heart, Zhuowen still followed Xiao He's instructions. With a flick of his right hand, the nascent soul of the Bai Mei Heavenly Master immediately appeared in Zhuowen's hand. "Dun, you damned fellow, how long are you going to seal my nascent soul?" The moment the nascent soul of the Bai Mei Heavenly Master was taken out, he cursed at Chun. "Xiao He, what should I do next?" Zhuowen ignored the Bai Mei Heavenly Master and stared at Xiao He. A sinister smile appeared on Xiao He's face as he chuckled. Even though that old dog Bai Mei Heavenly Master's physical body has been destroyed, the strength of this nascent soul is still pretty good. At the very least, it can display the strength of a supreme being. Let that old dog deal with the Mo Ying. You intend to release the seal on the Bai Mei Heavenly Master? Zhuowen's eyes flickered as he asked somewhat awkwardly. He knew that if he did that, the Bai Mei Heavenly Master would be the first to deal with Zhuowen. At that time, he would be in a bad situation. That's why this Dragon Lord wants to personally train him. A lewd smile appeared on Xiao He's face, causing the Bai Mei Heavenly Master, who was being held in Zhuowen's hand, to feel a chill run down his spine. "I'm telling you, Zhuowen, if you dare touch me, I won't let you off in the future." The Bai Mei Heavenly Master shouted coldly. "Idiot!" Zhuowen could not be bothered with Celestial Master Whitebrow. Instead, he handed him over to Blackie. Blackie chuckled and stretched out his little paw. A wisp of black mist spread out and entered the ball of light. Then, it flew toward Celestial Master Whitebrow's nascent soul. Whitebrow Heavenly Venerable roared. He knew that the black mist was definitely not something good. He quickly hid in the ball of light and did not let it get close. Unfortunately, Whitebrow Heavenly Venerable's nascent soul power had been sealed and he was powerless. In the end, he was still invaded by the black mist. "Zhuowen, I must kill you, I must." The Bai Mei Heavenly Master's eyes suddenly turned incomparably black, and he kept shouting that he wanted to kill Zhuowen. "Kid, remove the seal on the white-browed old dog's body." Blackie smirked. Looking at the Bai Mei Heavenly Master who was clamoring to kill Zhuowen, Zhuowen's head was full of black lines. This fellow was talking about killing him. Was it really okay to release the seal now? "Don't worry, this Bai Mei Heavenly Master won't attack you," Xiao He said again. Although Zhuowen felt that Xiao He's words were a little unreliable, he could only trust him for now. Then he pointed his right hand at the ball of light, and the seal that he had placed on the Bai Mei Heavenly Master's nascent soul was immediately released. Boom! A terrifying aura spread out. It was the pressure of a Heavenly Master. Although the Bai Mei Heavenly Master's physical body had been destroyed and he was only left with his nascent soul, he was still a Heavenly Master after all. His former power naturally still existed. Once the seal on the Bai Mei Heavenly Master was released, one hurriedly hid far away like a mouse that had seen a cat. What a strong aura. This aura is comparable to the Palace Masters. Could there be a Heavenly Master nearby? Mo Ying, who was originally chasing behind, naturally felt the terrifying aura from the Bai Mei Heavenly Master. He paused, and a trace of surprise appeared on his face. "Then I must kill you today. I must tear you into pieces and let you die a horrible death." A roar filled with hatred came from the ball of light in front of him. Then, the ball of light continued to expand, and finally became as tall as a person. At a glance, there was an old man with white hair and a white beard in the ball of light. However, this old man's eyes were pitch black, and he looked exceptionally strange. Mo Ying's body trembled. He naturally felt the pressure that was like heaven's might from before. It was naturally emitted from the old man in the ball of light in front of him. Senior, I did not mean to offend you. Our target is that guy. Please forgive me and let me pass. Mo Ing cupped his hands politely, and his eyes were filled with fear. Yuan, do you think I don't recognize you? Even if you turn into ashes, I will know that you are Yuan. Die. The Bai Mei Heavenly Master's pitch-black eyes stared straight at Mo Ing, causing the latter's hair to stand on end. Was this old man crazy? What Zhuoan or Zhuan? He did not know this person at all. Senior, you might have mistaken me for someone else. I am Mo Ing, not the Zhuan you speak of, Mo Ing said politely again. Bastard, I will recognize you even if you turn into ashes. Today, I want you to die. Die. Chapter 900. Joining hands. Mo Ying's eyes were extremely gloomy, especially when he saw Heavenly Venerate Whitebrow rushing over. His heart sank to the bottom. After all, Mo Ing was a monstrous genius of the Celestial Peak Demon Palace. Naturally, he was knowledgeable. He could tell at a glance that the old man before him wasn't a true Heavenly Venerate, but a Heavenly Venerate's nascent soul. However, even a Heavenly Venerate's nascent soul could unleash more power than his Xuanzuan realm. Therefore, Mo Ing was very cautious. What's the origin of that guy? He even has a Heavenly Venerate's nascent soul? After the shock, Mo Ing was even more puzzled. He was even more puzzled about the origin of Zhun, who was standing behind Heavenly Venerate Whitebrow. Boom! A muffled sound reverberated in the sky. Heavenly Venerate Whitebrow arrived in an instant. He stretched out his skinny palm and terrifying yuan power filled the air. It turned into an endless gale that strangled Mo Ing. Demonic shadow world. Mo Ing roared and split into thousands of clones. His speed soared to the extreme as he retreated. Bang, bang, bang. After all, Heavenly Venerate Whitebrow was once a Heavenly Venerate. Although he was only a nascent soul now, he still had the might of a Heavenly Venerate. He was much stronger than Mo Ing. Seeing Mo Ing split into thousands of clones, Heavenly Venerate Whitebrow flipped his right hand. The gale gathered around his palm turned into thousands of wisps and shot towards Mo Ying's clones. In the blink of an eye, Mo Ying's clones were annihilated under the attack of the gale. Only his real body was left, which turned around and retreated. Zhuo Wen's eyes flickered as he stared at the white-browed Heavenly Venerate, who had unleashed his might, not far behind the white-browed Heavenly Venerate. His heart was filled with doubt. From the white-browed Heavenly Venerate's performance, it seemed that he had mistaken the demonic shadow for Zhuo Wen. Xiao He, what did you do to Whitebrow Heavenly Lord just now? Zhuan suddenly asked Little River, who was still laughing mischievously on his shoulder. Xiao He chuckled and said, I just did something to the old dog's nascent soul. At this moment, the old dog won't even notice our existence. Besides us, anyone who appears in front of him will be treated as the person he hates the most, which is you, Tun. Yuan rubbed his nose. Looking at Celestial Master Whitebrow's behavior just now, Yuan could feel his intense hatred for him. This hatred even made Zhuowen's heart palpitate a little. Moreover, Yuan had a new understanding of Xiao He's methods. Although Xiao He was sometimes unreliable, the methods she occasionally used were rather practical and powerful. At this moment, Zui Qingfeng also arrived and landed beside Mo Ing. When he saw Mo Ying's somewhat miserable appearance, he couldn't help but reveal a trace of surprise in his eyes. You're in such a sorry state because of an ultimate three-wheel Emperor Realm cultivator? Zui Qingfeng said meaningfully. Bullshit. Zui Qingfeng, take a look at that old man in front of us. Mo Ing couldn't help but be angered by Zui Qingfeng's words. He pointed his right hand at Whitebrow Heavenly Lord and shouted. After Mo Ying's reminder, Zui Qingfeng's gaze also landed on Whitebrow Heavenly Lord. At the same time, he also noticed Zhuan behind Whitebrow Heavenly Lord, who was still calm and composed. Heavenly Lord Realm Expert? Zui Qingfeng's pupils shrank as he felt the powerful aura from Whitebrow Heavenly Lord. To be more precise, it should be the nascent soul of a Heavenly Lord Realm Expert. Although his aura is terrifying, His strength should only be around the supremacy realm. Zue Qingfeng, this person has many tricks up his sleeve. Not only did he seize the stone cave's treasure, he also has a heavenly lord nascent soul. This person can't be a disciple of your clear void valley. And looking at this person's appearance, there should be a lot of good things in his spirit ring. Let's join forces and take him down. How about we split the loot 50-50? Mo Ying stared at Whitebrow Heavenly Lord warily and secretly transmitted his voice to Zhu Qingfeng beside him. Heavenly Lord Nascent Soul? This person's wealth is really not small. However, the dignified evildoer of the Heavenly Peak Devil Palace actually wants to join forces with me. Weren't you very arrogant before? Why have you become so timid now? Zue Qingfeng narrowed his eyes and lightly mocked. He stepped forward and placed his hands behind his back. His gaze passed Whitebrow Heavenly Lord and landed on Zhuan. He asked indifferently, "Who exactly are you? I think that with so many tricks up your sleeve, it's unlikely that you're a disciple of my clear void valley, right?" Zhuan smiled faintly. His face slowly squirmed and returned to his original appearance. He smiled and said, "I think your clear void valley can't produce someone as bold as me, right?" "You're indeed bold. Since you know that I'm from the Clear Void Valley, you should know the power of the Clear Void Valley in Yen City, right? Now I'll give you a chance. Hand over your spirit ring and tie your hands to return to the Clear Void Valley. Perhaps our sect master will be lenient and spare your life." Zhu Qingfeng said arrogantly. Zhuan sneered and said, "You want me to hand over my spirit ring and tie my hands to return to the Clear Void Valley with you? I say, Zue Qingfeng, you're an influential figure in Yen City, a monstrous genius of the Clear Void Valley. Why do you have a pig's brain? If you were me, would you agree to this request?" Zue Qingfeng's gaze was dark. He said coldly, "You have guts. You clearly know that we're from the Clear Void Valley, yet you still dare to be so unbridled. I really don't know where your courage comes from." "Where's my courage coming from?" "Xiaohei, let this arrogant Zhe Qingfeng experience our courage," Zhuowen suddenly said to Xiaohei. Of course. This Zhe Qingfeng is too arrogant. This dragon lord doesn't like looking at him. Xiaohei grinned. With a wave of his little paw, a ray of light shot out and entered the Whitebrow Empyrean's forehead. This caused the Whitebrow Empyrean's eyes to become even more terrifying. "You little bastard, I'll definitely kill you." The Whitebrow Empyrean seemed to have gone mad as he rushed towards Zhe Qingfeng. Terrifying elemental energy exploded, wanting to completely kill Zhe Qingfeng. Clear Void Sword Technique, Sect Returning Swords. Zhe Qingfeng's eyebrows twitched. He pointed the sword fingers of his right hand and countless sword shadows condensed in the air. Then, these sword shadows merged into one and turned into a gigantic sword light that was several hundred feet long. It slashed down from the sky. Scram! The Whitebrow Empyrean's black eyes were filled with killing intent. With a low shout, his hands formed into claws and pushed upwards. A pair of huge eagle claws met the wind and heavily smashed onto the gigantic sword light. Kacha! The gigantic sword light seemed to be extremely powerful, but it only lasted for 3 breaths of time under the eagle claws. Then, under Zhe Qingfeng's horrified gaze, it completely shattered. With a muffled groan, Zue Qingfeng retreated again and again until he was several hundred meters away. His eyes were extremely gloomy. Although the Whitebrow Empyrean sovereign's body had been destroyed, he was still a nascent soul cultivator. Zue Qingfeng was no match for him at all. The Whitebrow Empyrean spread out his claws and turned into a gust of wind. Zhuan rushed towards Zue Qingfeng without any regard for his own safety. That terrifying gust of wind almost tore the surrounding space apart. Zue Qingfeng's expression changed greatly. He hurriedly shouted at Mo Ying, who was not far away, "Mo Ying, why don't you join forces to deal with this old fellow? Don't you want that rare treasure on that person's body? With just our strength alone, it'll be difficult to spit out this old fellow's defensive line." Mo Ying's lips suddenly curled into a mocking smile. He smiled faintly and said, "The great Clear Void Valley disciple Zhe Qingfeng, weren't you very arrogant just now? Why are you asking me for help now?" Hearing this, Zui Qingfeng almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. This Mo Ying was clearly taking revenge on Zui Qingfeng for mocking him just now. Boom boom boom. The white-brow Empyrean seemed to have gone mad. He attacked Zui Qingfeng without any regard for his life. Terrifying elemental energy exploded, causing the surrounding space to become slightly unstable. As for Zui Qingfeng, he was unable to speak. His cultivation was only in the Xuanzuan realm. How could he be a match for the white-brow Empyrean? If not for his battle prowess far surpassing that of ordinary Xuanzuan realm cultivators, he would have already been killed by the white-brow Empyrean. However, even so, Zui Qingfeng was still fiercely suppressed. He spat out a mouthful of blood and his face became incomparably pale. Especially when he saw Mo Ying, who was watching the show from the side, he shouted angrily, "Mo Ying, if you don't come to help, I, Zui Qingfeng, will immediately turn around and leave. You can face this old fellow alone." Mo Ying also knew that there must be a limit to what he could do. He nodded, took a step forward, and came to Zui Qingfeng's side. He spat out a palm, and a force of black mist spread out and blasted towards the white-brow Empyrean. Bang! When Mo Ying and Zui Qingfeng joined forces, their power instantly surpassed the previous one. They actually managed to force the white-brow Empyrean to retreat. Don't hold back. Let's end this quickly. With the strength of the two of us, fighting against a supreme stage Empyrean nascent soul cultivator is a piece of cake. Mo Ying said coldly. He waved his right hand, and the black mist on the surface of his body suddenly tumbled and surged into his right hand. At the same time, the black mist dissipated, revealing Mo Ying's true appearance. Mo Ying was dressed in black, and his face was as pale as snow. His eyes were filled with a scarlet color and emitted a bloodthirsty glow. The black mist gathered in Mo Ying's palm, and turned into a black longsword that was about 10 feet long. This longsword was surrounded by a strange black mist, and it looked extremely strange. Zui Qingfeng nodded. He patted his waist with his right hand, and the jade wine gourd hanging from his waist suddenly expanded to about 10 feet in size. Then he pulled out the cork with his right hand, and a faint blue liquid gushed out from the gourd, turning into a huge water python around him. "Kill!" The two of them shouted in unison. Mo Ying waved the black longsword in his right hand, and a huge black sword shadow suddenly appeared in the void. It cut through the air, and mercilessly slashed towards the white-brow Empyrean. Zui Qingfeng formed a seal with both hands, and the huge water python followed behind the black longsword. It spat out its scarlet tongue and rushed towards the white-brow Empyrean at the same time. "Rumble!" The white-brow Empyrean shouted. He flipped his hands and raised them up. Terrifying yuan power poured out, turning into 2 huge eagle claws, and met the attack. Chapter 901. Defeat Zui Qingfeng and Mo Ying also revealed a trace of joy. The two of them were the top geniuses of Yen City, and their fighting strength was naturally extraordinary. The fighting strength that they could unleash after joining forces had exceeded their expectations. Our Heaven Peak Devil Palace will give you a chance. As long as you hand over your spirit ring and unique treasure, we will let you leave this place safely. How about it? Although Mo Ying and Zui Qingfeng were able to suppress Whitebrow Heavenly Master for a while, it would take them a lot of time to completely defeat him. During this time, Zhuan could easily escape. Therefore, Mo Ying's tone slowed down. Zhuan suddenly smiled and said sarcastically, "I should be the one saying that." "What do you mean? The current situation is already very clear. This exalted celestial Yuaning cannot do anything to the two of us, but you must know that you are alone, while the two of us have the support of the Heavenly Peak Devil Palace and the Clear Void Valley. Defending us is not a wise choice." Mo Ying frowned. Zhuan shook his head again. Suddenly, he flicked his finger and a palm-sized ball of light appeared in his palm. This ball of light also had a little person inside. It was actually another Heavenly Master's nascent soul. "Zhuan? It really is you, kid. How long are you going to seal me?" The little person in the ball of light stared at Zhuan and roared. "Heavenly Master Yellow Serpent. Don't worry, I will let you out now." After saying that, Zhuan gave Xiao He a look. Xiao He understood. He extended his little claws and grabbed Emperor Huang Jiao's head. A dark black energy entered the space between his eyebrows. Emperor Huang Jiao didn't even make a sound. His eyes became as dark as Emperor Huang Jiao's. What? This guy has a heavenly master's nascent soul? How is that possible? Where did he get a heavenly master's nascent soul? Mo Ying's expression stiffened. His expression had already become extremely unsightly. There were only 2 heavenly venerables in their celestial peak devil palace. Previously, when Zhuan took out White-Brow Emperor nascent soul, he was already extremely shocked. But now, this Zhuan was like magic, taking out another Emperor nascent soul. This method was too heaven-defying. After all, if these 2 heavenly venerate nascent souls had not been destroyed, they would be heavenly venerates with monstrous strength. They would be considered all-powerful existences in Yen City. However, they had now appeared in the hands of a mere third-wheel ultimate emperor stage cultivator. If the demonic shadow knew that Zhuan didn't just have 2 Emperor nascent souls, but 5, who knew what sort of expression the demonic shadow would have? Zui Qingfeng was also shocked. Their clear void valley did not have many heavenly venerables. They were on par with the heavenly peak devil palace. The shock in his heart was no less than Mo Ying's. Go! After Zhuan opened the seal on Emperor Yellowbone, Emperor Yellowbone naturally had the same reaction as White-Brow Emperor. He cursed Zhuan as a son of a bitch and charged towards Mo Ying and Zui Qingfeng. Seeing White-Brow Emperor Yellowbone and Emperor Yellowbone cursing him while mercilessly attacking Zui Qingfeng and Mo Ying, Zhuan couldn't help but feel strange. Boom boom boom. With the addition of Emperor Yellowbone, the battle instantly turned upside down. Mo Ying and Zui Qingfeng, who were originally suppressing White-Brow Emperor Yellowbone, were completely defeated. Both of them were in an extremely difficult situation. Poochie, poochie. 2 muffled groans sounded. Mo Ying and Zui Qingfeng both spat out mouthfuls of blood and were sent flying. Go! Mo Ying and Zui Qingfeng shouted and flew in the direction they were sent flying. They turned into 2 rays of light and tried to escape. Where do you think you're going? Zhuan, you must leave your life behind today. White-Brow Emperor Yellowbone and Emperor Yellowbone roared and chased after Zui Qingfeng and Mo Ying. Their speed wasn't slow either, and they caught up with Mo Ying and Zui Qingfeng in an instant. Emperor Yellowbone's right hand clasped Mo Ying's right arm, wanting to completely detain him. Scram! Mo Ying roared and waved the black longsword in his right hand. Countless black rays shot towards Emperor Yellowbone's forehead. Emperor Yellowbone's eyes were cold. He pressed down with his right hand and his elemental energy turned into a vortex that blocked in front of him. The black rays were directly crushed by the vortex. You can't escape. I won't be at ease if you don't die. Emperor Yellowbone sneered. His eyes were filled with a cruel light. His other hand clawed at Mo Ying's head. The elemental energy contained in this claw was extremely terrifying. If Mo Ying didn't dodge, he would be seriously injured even if he didn't die. Unfortunately, Mo Ying's right arm was now clasped by Emperor Yellowbone. It wouldn't be easy for him to completely escape Emperor Yellowbone's grasp. Damn it! You remember this? Mo Ying roared and swung the black longsword in his left hand. With a poochie sound, Mo Ying's right arm was cut off. Then, Mo Ying let out a miserable howl and turned into a black shadow that disappeared into the horizon. Zui Qingfeng was in an even more sorry state than Mo Ying. He was basically unable to resist White-Brow Emperor Yellowbone's attack. Naturally, Zui Qingfeng also noticed Mo Ying's miserable howl. When he saw Mo Ying cut off his right arm in order to escape, Zui Qingfeng's face turned extremely ugly. He knew that once Mo Ying escaped, Emperor Yellowbone would definitely join forces with White-Brow Emperor Yellowbone to hunt him down. At that time, it would really be difficult for him to escape. White-Brow Emperor Yellowbone took advantage of Zui Qingfeng's distraction and slammed his palm into Zui Qingfeng's chest, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood and fly backwards. You remember this? Our clear void valley will not let you off. Zui Qingfeng glared fiercely at Zhuan in the distance. Then he took out a jade leaf from his bosom. Waves of green light wrapped around Zui Qingfeng. Then, Zui Qingfeng turned into a wisp of illusory wind and disappeared on the spot. That was teleportation? Seeing Zui Qingfeng disappear thousands of miles away in an instant, Zhuowen's eyes narrowed and he muttered in a low voice. Zhuowen, let's see where you can run to. Empyrean Yellowbone and Whitebrow Empyrean Yellowbone roared at the same time. They actually planned to chase after Zui Qingfeng, who was escaping. Come back. Xiao He coldly snorted and waved his little paw. Empyrean Yellowbone and Empyrean Yellowbone both hugged their heads and struggled in pain, as if they were enduring intense pain. Boy, seal these two guys again. This dragon lord can't control them for too long, Xiao He said to Zhuowen solemnly. Nodding, Zhuowen instantly arrived in front of Empyrean Yellowbone and Empyrean Yellowbone. The two of them were enduring some kind of intense pain and didn't notice Zhuowen's approach at all. Zhuowen pointed his hands at the space between their eyebrows. Wisps of sealing power spread out and the two of them were sealed in a ball of light by Zhun. Inside the ball of light, Celestial Venerate Whitebrow and Celestial Venerate Huangjiao had also regained their clarity of mind. They noticed that something was amiss and glared at Zhuowen as they said coldly, Zhuowen, what did you do to us just now? Zhuowen couldn't be bothered with the two of them. He stuffed Empyrean Yellowbone into his spirit ring and lifted Empyrean Yellowbone in his hand, continuously absorbing the surging energy from Empyrean Yellowbone. Zhuowen had consumed a lot of energy from being chased by Mo Ying and Zui Qingfeng, so he needed to replenish his energy. Empyrean Yellowbone naturally became Zhuowen's replenishment elixir. Empyrean Yellowbone screamed in the ball of light, trying to stop Zhuowen from absorbing his nascent soul energy, but it was useless. Pitiful Empyrean Whitebrow. Not only did he have to become Zhuowen's scapegoat and fight in Zhuowen's place, but after the battle was over, Zhuowen would deprive him of the strength of his nascent soul so that he could recover and cultivate. However, Empyrean Yellowbone asked for it. After all, he had schemed to kill Zhuowen, so Zhuowen naturally wouldn't be polite to him. After the Yuan power in his body had almost recovered, Zhuowen stuffed Empyrean Yellowbone's nascent soul into his spirit ring and disappeared into the dense forest. Now that Zhuowen had obtained the spirit ring, Zhuowen should be able to completely recover his strength in a short period of time by relying on the resources in the spirit ring. After recovering his strength, Zhuowen planned to go to Yen City and see if he could find a way to Jiashan Academy. Now, what Zhuowen needed to do was find a secluded place to start a retreat to recover his strength. Suddenly, a heart-wrenching scream rang out in the sky above Xiaoyan Pu and the others. Xiaoyan Pu and the others were startled and looked towards the source of the scream. Swoosh! Mo Ying flew out from above Xiaoyan Pu and the others. Fresh blood flowed down from the wound on his right arm, filling the air with a pungent smell of blood. That's Mo Ying from Heaven Peak Devil Palace. He seems to have lost an arm and his injuries are very serious. Someone on the empty ground suddenly spoke, a trace of disbelief in his voice. Mo Ying was extremely famous in Yen City. There were very few existences among the younger generation who could fight against him. Only an expert from the older generation could seriously injure Mo Ying. It must have been done by the person that Mo Ying was chasing. Who exactly is that person? He's actually so terrifying that even Mo Ying lost an arm. Discussions broke out in the crowd, while Xiaoyan Pu's face darkened. He knew the identity of the person that Mo Ying was chasing. It was Yun, who had snatched his spirit ring from him. However, Yun was clearly only at the ultimate three-wheel emperor stage. How did he manage to injure Mo Ying to such an extent? Swoosh! Before the crowd could react, a gust of wind appeared near the empty ground. Then, Zui Qingfeng's miserable figure landed near Xiaoyan Pu and the others. Zui Qingfeng spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was pale as he knelt on the ground with one knee. His breathing was shallow and hurried. Eldest senior brother? The Clear Void Valley disciples guarding the entrance of the forest naturally recognized Zui Qingfeng's miserable figure. They all helped him up, their eyes filled with worry. I'm fine. Help me into the valley. There are too many people here. Zui Qingfeng said in a low voice. Then he led the Clear Void Valley disciples away. Looking at the heavily injured Zui Qingfeng, the shock on Xiaoyan Pu and the others' faces became even more intense. They never thought that even Zui Qingfeng would be in such a sorry state. Chapter 902. Search. At this moment, the battle between Demon Taoist and Qing Su had already stopped. The two of them were quietly facing each other. Demon Taoist held the demon sword with a cold expression. His aura was as stable as before. On the other hand, Qing Su was in a sorry state. His aura was slightly chaotic. It was obvious that Demon Taoist had the upper hand in their battle. Qing Su, is there still a need to fight? It's basically impossible for you to take the demon Bodhi tree from my hands. Demon Taoist said coldly. Qing Su took a deep breath and said coldly, Demon Taoist, you've gone too far. I won't let this matter rest. Demon Taoist sneered. He was very clear about Qing Su's character. Even though he was at a disadvantage in the battle, he still wanted to cover up his failure. He was a hypocrite who cared about his reputation. A sound of breaking air rang out. Then, Mo Ying arrived beside Demon Taoist in a sorry state. His face was extremely pale. Qing Su and Demon Taoist naturally noticed Mo Ying's sorry state. Their faces were filled with astonishment. Didn't Mo Ying and Zui Qingfeng go to the valley to find the source of the black light pillar? Why was Mo Ying in such a sorry state? Your Heavenly Peak Demon Palace's #1 genius is only SOSO. He can't be compared to our Clear Void Valley's Zui Qingfeng. Qing Su's eyes were filled with pride. After seeing Mo Ying's sorry state, he instantly thought that Mo Ying's injuries were caused by Zui Qingfeng. In this area, other than Qing Su Zi and Demon Dao Zi, there was basically no one who was a match for Mo Ying and Zui Qingfeng, the two monsters of Great Yen City. Since Mo Ying was injured so badly, perhaps only Zui Qingfeng had the ability to do so. Demon Taoist didn't answer. His right hand tapped on Mo Ying's right arm and instantly sealed several major acupoints. Then he sent out his palm energy and a pitch-black energy entered Mo Ying's right arm. Mo Ying roared in pain. That pitch-black energy was Demon Taoist's demonic energy. When this energy entered his body, it was as painful as being bitten by thousands of ants. Even though Mo Ying's mind was firm, he was still tortured by this extreme pain and almost fainted. Endure the pain and don't faint. I will now reconstruct your right arm. If you faint, then all my previous efforts will be wasted. Master Demon said indifferently. The demonic shadow clenched his teeth and forcefully endured the pain. He only let out a low roar. Puchi. At the wound on the demonic figure's right arm, strands of black veins squirmed continuously. Then, with a tearing sound, a strange black arm grew out. His severed arm grew back. Qing Su's eyes narrowed as he looked at Master Demon with even more dread. Back in Yen City, Master Demon was a famous madman. In order to pursue great power, he entered the Tao with the devil. The side effects of entering the Tao as a demon were well known. If one was not careful and completely entered the Tao, they would become a great demon that had no consciousness and only knew how to kill. In the past, no one was optimistic about Master Demon's cultivation method. However, what happened later greatly exceeded everyone's expectations. Master Demon actually succeeded in entering the Tao as a demon. Moreover, he even controlled the thought of entering the Tao as a demon and grasped the powerful power of entering the Tao. Among the leaders of Yen City's 4 great sects, Demon Tao was the youngest. It had only been 30 years since his debut, but he was already on the same level as Qing Su Zi. In fact, his strength even surpassed Qing Su Zi. Ever since Master Demon grasped the power of entering the Tao, Qing Su became more and more unable to see through Master Demon. In any case, this severed arm growing back wasn't something that Qing Su could do himself. Many thanks, Palace Master. Looking at his right arm that had recovered to its original state, Mo Ying hurriedly bowed. His eyes were filled with passion and worship. Tell me, who did this to you? Master Demon asked indifferently with his hands behind his back. Actually, Demon Taoist also had some doubts in his heart. Mo Ying's strength wasn't weak, but to put Mo Ying in such a difficult situation wasn't something an ordinary person could do. Even Clear Void Valley's Zui Qingfeng wouldn't be able to do it. Who else could it be? Of course it's our Qingsu Valley's Zui Qingfeng. Master Demon, do you think that there's another junior here who can pose a threat to Mo Ying aside from Zui Qingfeng? Qingsu coldly ridiculed. There was a trace of pride in his eyes. Just now, he had been reduced to such a sorry state by Master Demon. Now that he was able to get it back on a junior, it could be considered as getting back some face for Qingsu. At this moment, several Qingsu Valley's disciples were supporting a rather sorry figure as they walked into the valley. This sorry figure was Zui Qingfeng, who had fled for his life. After all, Zui Qingfeng had taken a direct hit from the Whitebrow Heavenly Sovereign's attack. His injuries weren't light. Although they weren't as serious as Mo Ying's severed arm, his internal injuries were quite serious. This caused Zui Qingfeng to be unable to stand steadily. Qingfeng? Qingsu's eyes widened. Naturally, he saw Zui Qingfeng, who was being supported by the Qingsu Valley's disciples. A trace of emotion appeared on his face. Qingsu, your Qingsu Valley's Zui Qingfeng doesn't seem to be any better. Why do you say that Mo Ying was injured by Zui Qingfeng? I think there's no difference between the two. Master Demon said indifferently. Mo Ying had an arm severed by Qingfeng. Even if he was seriously injured, the strength of your Heaven Peak Devil Palace's Mo Ying is clearly weaker than Qingfeng. Qingsu said indifferently. Master Demon frowned. Qingsu was right. To be able to sever Mo Ying's arm, logically speaking, Zui Qingfeng should have the upper hand. Otherwise, Mo Ying wouldn't have lost an arm. The truth isn't like that. Zui Qingfeng isn't qualified, nor does he have the strength to sever my right arm. Mo Ying suddenly snorted coldly. Then what happened? Master Demon asked with some interest. Hearing Master Demon Dao's question, Demon Shadow didn't hide anything and told him everything that happened just now in full detail. As for Master Demon and Master Qingsu, the more they heard, the more shocked they became. A three-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm Cultivator was actually able to withstand Mo Ying's attack, and he even had 2 Empyrean Nascent Souls. In addition, the mysterious youth had also obtained an incredible treasure from beneath the Buddha Demon Bodhi tree. After listening to Mo Ying's description, Qingsu Zi and Demon Dao Zi's interest was piqued. They had never heard of such a person in Yen City. Qingfeng, is what Mo Ying said true? Qingsu looked at Zui Qingfeng and asked. Zui Qingfeng nodded and didn't deny it. That youth definitely has some secrets on him. Master Demon, why don't you and I work together and search this forest? Perhaps we can find that mysterious youth. At that time, we can split the secrets we obtain. Master Qingsu suddenly threw out an olive branch to Master Demon. After hearing that the mysterious youth could take out 2 Heavenly Venerate Yuanying, Qingsu couldn't remain calm. A Heavenly Venerate Yuanying was a great supplement. If Qingsu could obtain a Heavenly Venerate Yuanying, his strength would definitely increase by leaps and bounds. Unfortunately, Heavenly Venerate experts were extremely powerful. Even Qingsu was only at the mid-Heavenly Venerate realm. He simply didn't have the ability to kill a Heavenly Venerate expert. Moreover, which Heavenly Venerate expert in Yen City didn't have a powerful background? It was even more impossible to kill one. Therefore, Qingsu was very clear about how rare a Heavenly Venerate Yuanying was. Therefore, Qingsu temporarily put aside his prejudice against Master Demon and invited him to search for the mysterious youth together. Demon Daozi's eyes flickered as he revealed a shocked expression. Demon Daozi didn't feel anything about that so-called unique treasure. After all, he had already obtained the Buddha Demon Bodhi tree. No matter how precious that unique treasure was, it couldn't be more precious than the Buddha Demon Bodhi tree. What he cared about was the Heavenly Venerate Yuanying. It was a fatal attraction to him. It could greatly shorten the time he needed to cultivate. After all, after one's cultivation reached the Heavenly Venerate realm, even if one was an extremely talented genius, it wasn't that easy to advance a small realm. If one didn't have any fortuitous encounters and just followed the prescribed path, it was unknown when one would be able to cultivate to the peak of the Heavenly Venerate realm. And from the peak of the Heavenly Venerate realm to the Emperor realm, it was even more difficult. There were some geniuses who were trapped in the Emperor realm for hundreds and thousands of years. When the day came, they would be stuck at the peak of the heavenly venerate realm and die unwillingly. After pondering for a moment, Master Demon nodded and said, "All right. However, this forest is too vast. Wanting to find a youth here is like looking for a needle in a haystack. I'm afraid it won't be that easy, right? The two of us are heavenly venerates. With our perception, we can completely search the entire forest in a short period of time. That mysterious youth can't have gone far. If the two of us are fast enough, we can definitely find him," Qing Su said with confidence. "In that case, we can give it a try." Then Master Demon said to Moing, "You go back first. The injuries on your body are quite serious. It's not suitable for you to fight. Go back and recuperate." Moing cupped his hands. He didn't hesitate in the slightest. He turned into a black shadow and left the forest. As for Zui Qingfeng, under Qing Su's orders, he was taken away by several Clear Void Valley disciples who weren't weak. He returned to the sect to recuperate. As for the other Clear Void Valley disciples in the forest, they all left the forest under Qing Su's orders. As for Zhuowen's appearance and special aura, Zui Qingfeng and Emoing had already recorded it in the jade slips they carried with them. Therefore, the two of them weren't unfamiliar with Zhuowen's appearance and aura. Moreover, Emoing and Zui Qingfeng emphasized that the mysterious youth had a secret technique to change his appearance. It was very difficult to find him just by relying on his appearance. They had to combine it with Zhuowen's aura. "Let's go. Let's not waste any more time," Master Demon said indifferently. He walked in a direction and used his enormous perception to sense whether or not the mysterious youth was hiding in the forest. If he found anyone suspicious, Master Demon would definitely be the first to act. Chapter 903. Buddha and Devil Blend in One Thought. The Clear Void Valley disciples have all retreated. What's going on up ahead? On the empty ground, Xiaoyan Pu and the others also saw the Clear Void Valley disciples guarding the entrance. After whispering a few words, they no longer blocked the path and left the area. Their faces were full of anxiety. Xiaoyan Pu and the others were full of confusion. They had waited on the empty ground for a few days and simply did not know what was going on up ahead. At this moment, they were even more confused. Since the Clear Void Valley disciples have all retreated, then we can also leave this place, Xiaoyan Pu said in a clear voice. Then he came in front of the Ruan clan team and specially cupped his hands in front of Ruan Lingyu. He said with a smile, "Miss Ruan, why don't you come with us to Yen City this time? This way we can take care of each other." Seeing Xiaoyan Pu's different attitude towards Ruan Lingyu, Commander Ruan and the others revealed a trace of joy. The Xiaoyan clan was very powerful in Yen City. If Ruan Lingyu could get closer to Xiaoyan Pu, it would be very beneficial for the Ruan clan. However, Leng Ying's pretty face became even colder. Her beautiful eyes were filled with traces of jealousy. However, this jealousy was well hidden by Leng Ying. Ruan Lingyu slightly lowered her head and said with a light nod, "If young Master Xiaoyan doesn't mind the weak strength of my Ruan clan team, Lingyu will not object." It seems that Miss Ruan has agreed. Xiaoyan Pu's eyes revealed a joyful expression. He said with a clear voice, "Then let's set off now." Bush, bush. At this moment, two sounds of something breaking through the air suddenly rang out. Soon after, two imposing figures appeared above Xiaoyan Pu and the others. Moreover, these two people faintly revealed an aura that actually stirred the surrounding space. It was as if the entire world was trembling because of these two people. What a terrifying aura. Who are these two people? Why are their auras so terrifying? Leng Ying looked up at the two people in the sky. Her beautiful eyes were filled with shock. Heavenly Peak Devil Palace Master Mo Daozi, Clear Void Valley Master Qing Su. Xiaoyan Pu was experienced and knowledgeable. With a glance, he recognized the two figures that suddenly descended and could not help but cry out in surprise. And it was precisely these words from Xiaoyan Pu that caused a huge uproar in the group. No one had expected that these two people who had suddenly appeared were actually the true leaders of the Heavenly Peak Devil Palace and the Clear Void Valley. Whether it was Demon Daozi or Qing Su, in the eyes of the majority of the warriors in Yen City, they were powerful and unreachable existences. In fact, in the hearts of many warriors, such overlords were simply unreachable. But now, these two magnates were right in front of them, and from the looks of it, they seemed to be looking for something. I am Xiaoyan Pu of the Xiaoyan aristocratic family. Greetings to the two lords. Xiaoyan Pu hurriedly stepped forward and bowed to Demon Daoist and Qing Su as he cautiously said, I didn't expect to meet someone from the Xiaoyan family here. Qing Su nodded at Xiaoyan Pu and said calmly. Master Demon was as indifferent as ever. He didn't even look sideways. Master Demon's attitude didn't cause any dissatisfaction. After all, Master Demon was infamous in Yen City. How could they dare to point fingers at Master Demon? May I know the purpose of your visit? Xiaoyan Pu bowed and continued. He's not in this group. Master Demon said coldly. Qing Su nodded. He had just checked and found that Zhuan wasn't in Xiaoyan Pu's group. However, Qing Su didn't leave. Instead, he waved his right hand and a jade slip appeared in his palm. A ray of light shot out from the jade slip and a portrait appeared on top of the jade slip. He asked Xiaoyan Pu and the others, Have you seen this person? If anyone can provide me with clues, Qing Su Valley won't mistreat them. It's Zhuowen? A surprised voice rang out. Leng Ying and Ruan Lingyu were both staring at the portrait as they exclaimed in unison. Some of the people in the group who had seen Zhuowen before were also surprised. Obviously, they recognized the original owner of the portrait. You know this person? Qing Su and Demon Daozi's expressions changed at the same time. Their gazes converged on Leng Ying and Ruan Lingyu. After all, these two women were the first to recognize him. At this moment, Xiaoyan Pu also reacted. He also recognized the owner of the portrait. His eyes flickered and no one knew what he was thinking. You say it. Master Demon pointed at Leng Ying. His voice was still cold. Leng Ying was shocked and quickly stood up. However, her heart was extremely nervous and in a mess. She didn't know why the two giants of Yen City were looking for Zhuowen. Could it be that Zhuowen's identity was extraordinary? If Zhuowen's identity was extraordinary, Leng Ying's heart was even more nervous. After all, her attitude toward Zhuowen wasn't good. If Zhuowen's identity was extraordinary, the Ruan family might not be able to help her when he came looking for trouble. Say it. Master Demon spat out another word. His voice was filled with an unquestionable tone. Leng Ying's delicate body trembled and she quickly said, This Zhuowen is a youth that our Ruan family saved along the way. After our Ruan family stopped at this open space, Zhuowen disappeared without a trace. In fact, we are also looking for Zhuowen right now. Leng Ying naturally couldn't tell them about her snatching Zhuowen's spirit ring. She only gave a brief description of the situation. Master Demon's brows slightly knitted. After giving Leng Ying a cold glance, he stared at Ruan Lingyu and asked, Is this girl right? Ruan Lingyu's beautiful eyes flickered. She gritted her teeth and said, Sister Leng Ying is right. Zhuowen disappeared without a trace last night. Even now, we still don't know where he went. It seems that Zhuowen is indeed not in this group. Master Demon, let's go search elsewhere. This time, we must capture this kid. Qing Su said to Master Demon. Master Demon nodded. Soon after, the two of them turned into two streaks of light and disappeared on the spot. They went to search elsewhere. After Qing Su and Master Demon left, the group let out a sigh of relief. However, they were even more puzzled in their hearts. They didn't know why the two overlords were looking for Zhuowen, who was merely an ultimate emperor realm cultivator. However, anyone with a discerning eye could tell that the two overlords were looking for Zhuowen for no good reason. After all, Qing Su had just said that he wanted to capture Zhuowen. Could it be that Zhuowen has some kind of treasure on him? He actually caused two overlords to search for him at the same time. Leng Ying's beautiful eyes flickered. She already had some guesses in her heart. Zhuowen's origin was unknown and his identity was mysterious. Moreover, it seemed like he was being hunted down. Now that Master Demon and Qing Su had personally come to search for him, Leng Ying knew that Zhuowen must have something on him that made Master Demon and Qing Su envious. Otherwise, the two overlords wouldn't join forces to search for a mere ultimate emperor realm cultivator. Sush. A silhouette flew through the dense forest like a nimble monkey. It was abnormally agile. There's a natural cave up ahead. It's well hidden. Kid, you can go there and cultivate during this period of time. Xiao Hei's voice sounded in Yi Shiwen's ear. Zhuan nodded and increased his speed. Before long, he arrived in front of the cave that Xiao Hei had mentioned. The cave was located at the bottom of a steep cliff. Moreover, there was a dense bush in front of the cave. If one didn't pay close attention, they wouldn't be able to discover the cave at all. This cave is indeed well hidden. It's very suitable for secluded cultivation. Zhuan nodded when he arrived at the entrance of the cave. He was extremely satisfied with the hidden cave. After entering the cave, Zhuan discovered that the cave was extremely deep. Moreover, it was slanted downwards. Could there be another world below this cave? After pondering for a moment, Zhuan finally decided to go deeper into the cave. He wanted to see just what was at the end of the cave. Zhuan soon arrived at the end of the cave. He soon discovered that there was another cave at the end of the cave. Moreover, this cave was exactly the same as the one under the demon Buddha Bodhi tree. Moreover, there was a statue at the center of this cave. Moreover, this statue's appearance was exactly the same as the one under the demon Buddha Bodhi tree. It was also the image of a young man. However, the only difference between the statue and the one in the cave was that one side of the statue wasn't covered in golden light while the other side was covered in demonic shadows. Instead, the golden Buddha and black demonic shadows were intertwined in this statue. They blended together like water and milk and appeared to be rather harmonious. Emptiness in a single thought. Buddha and demonic merge. Incarnation as ancient, heavenly Tao as divine. A faint voice resounded in the cave. However, this statue was much more peaceful than the one in the cave. After the voice rang out, there wasn't any earth-shattering phenomenon like before. What's going on with this statue? Zhuan stared at the statue in front of him suspiciously. Regardless of whether it was the statue from before or this one, they both gave him a strange feeling. It's actually him? Xiao Hei's eyes narrowed as she softly muttered to herself. However, Xiao Hei's voice was very soft. Zhuan's attention was completely focused on the statue in front of him. Therefore, he didn't hear Xiao Hei's words. There's a small indentation in between the statue's eyebrows. Didn't you obtain the demon Buddha Bodhi seed from the previous cave? Why don't you put it in and take a look? Suddenly, Xiao Hei smiled at Zhuan. Hearing this, Zhuan did indeed notice that there was a small indentation in between the statue's eyebrows. After taking out the demon Buddha Bodhi seed from his spirit ring, Yun realized that the size of the Bodhi seed was just right for the indentation between the statue's eyebrows. Could it be a coincidence? With his eyes flickering, Yun slowly pressed the demon Buddha Bodhi seed into the indentation between the statue's eyebrows. Swoosh! At that moment, the Buddha shadow and demon shadow that blended together on the surface of the statue in front of Zhuan suddenly became clear. Then, the statue's tightly shut eyes slowly opened. In those eyes, there was the sun, the moon, the stars, the sky, and the earth. It was as though there was a world inside. Staring at the pair of eyes, Zhuan was instantly immersed in them. He was stunned on the spot and didn't move at all, just like a statue. I wonder what this guy left behind. In ancient times, this guy was as famous as Emperor Wind Thunder, the arrogant guy. Chapter 904. The fighting Buddha demons saint the boundless sky, the cracked earth, the barren weeds, the decadent ruins and the densely packed light spots in the air. When Zhuan opened his eyes, the first thing he saw was the strange scene before him. Where is this? Looking at the strange scene before him, Zhuan knitted his brows and the doubt in his eyes grew. He remembered that he was still in the underground cave. How did he end up in such a strange space? Boom, boom, boom. Suddenly, the sky fell and the earth cracked. Zhuan was caught off guard and he staggered and almost fell to the ground. Two figures with heavenly might descended in the space. Zhuan raised his head and looked at the two figures that suddenly descended. His eyes were filled with horror. Buddha and demon? Two huge figures. One was an ancient Buddha that was covered in golden light and the other was a demon with demonic shadows lingering around him. One Buddha and one demon, they quietly faced each other in the void. The ancient Buddha was peaceful while the demon went berserk. Kill! The demon stomped his foot and countless demonic chi burst out. Terrifying energy filled the air and caused the entire space to tremble. The demon instantly closed in on the ancient Buddha. He spat out his right palm and the demonic chi turned into a huge demon hand that pressed down on the ancient Buddha. The ancient Buddha was still as serene as ever. His originally squinted eyes slowly opened. A pair of golden Buddha eyes stared indifferently at the demon above. His pair of Buddha palms were put together as he slowly faced the demon above. The Buddha's light was as bright as the sun. Boom! The demonic chi and the Buddha's force instantly clashed. Golden light and black light intertwined in the entire space and created a dazzling golden-black color. The sky was no longer blue and the earth was no longer brown. The golden-black color had already filled the entire space. Looking around, there were no other colors. In the golden-black light, the battle between the ancient Buddha and the demon instantly broke out. They fought from the sky to the ground, from the ground to the sky, and from the sky to the void. The Buddhist light and the demonic chi tangled with each other, neither giving way to the other. A terrifying power spread out, causing the sky to collapse, the earth to crack, and the entire space to disintegrate. One was like an insignificant ant. He could only watch as the Buddha and the demon fought back and forth. They were too powerful. With a flip of their hands, the sky collapsed. With a flip of their hands, the earth cracked. This sort of horrifying power had Zhuan shuddering in fear. At the same time, he had a strong desire for this sort of heavenly might. Even the heavens and earth had collapsed. This kind of power was simply unimaginable to Zhuan in the past. It was too terrifying. The Buddha and the devil had boundless combat power, but no one could do anything to the other. This battle had lasted for so long that even the Buddha and the devil had forgotten about time. They were just fighting against each other mechanically. One thought to become a Buddha, another to become a devil. The Buddha and the devil cannot coexist, and the two thoughts will eventually turn to ashes. A sigh reverberated through the world. Following that, Zhuan realized that the Buddha and the devil that were entangled in the void had all collapsed, turning into thumb-sized Bodhi seeds, one golden and one black. Buddha and the devil Bodhi seeds? Looking at the Bodhi seeds that the Buddha and the devil had turned into, Zhuan's eyes narrowed. Naturally, he could recognize that this was the Buddha and the devil Bodhi seeds that he had obtained previously. Swoosh! An imposing figure suddenly darted out from a crack in the void. This person had delicate features and wore a white robe. He was a young bald monk. This monk put his palms together and looked at the Buddha and the devil Bodhi seeds that were floating in the air. He sighed softly and said, "The Buddha and the devil cannot coexist?" As he muttered softly, the bald monk moved his right hand and took the Buddha and the devil Bodhi seeds into his hand. His clear eyes had a solemn look. No one knew what he was thinking about. The Buddha and the devil cannot coexist? The bald monk looked at the Buddha and the devil Bodhi seeds quietly and motionlessly. Light flowed in his eyes. Just like that, one day, 1 year, 10 years, 100 years, he looked at the Buddha and the devil Bodhi seeds like a statue. Gradually, half of the bald monk's body turned golden and the other half demonic. The two colors of gold and black flickered and changed on both sides of his body. Finally, the bald monk's motionless body suddenly moved. He held the Buddha and the devil Bodhi seeds in his right hand and slowly pressed them between his eyebrows. Boom! The moment the Buddha and the devil Bodhi seeds were pressed between his eyebrows, the golden light and demonic shadows on both sides of the young monk's body trembled. Then, they surged into his forehead and the young monk returned to his original state. His body no longer had the golden light and demonic shadows. Instead, it became spotless, like a lotus leaf that had emerged from the mud. However, the Buddha and the devil Bodhi seeds in between the young monk's eyebrows underwent a huge change. It turned into a strange eye that was half golden and half black. The golden light and black light flowed and changed in this eye. The Buddha and the devil eye appears. Ha! The young monk laughed loudly. The intersecting golden and black eye in between his eyebrows shot out a beam of golden and black light. It pierced through the sky and shattered the void. At the same time, not long after the young monk left, the space began to collapse. In the end, it turned into countless tiny dust particles. When Zhuan came back to his senses, he looked at the statue in front of him and could not help but take a few steps back. At this moment, the Buddha and the devil Bodhi seeds in between the statue's eyebrows had undergone a huge change. It had turned into a golden and black eye. If one took a closer look, one would be able to see that the golden black eye contained a Buddha shadow and a demon shadow. Two stalwart figures were constantly clashing within the eye. It was a pair of destructive eyes that contained both the power of Buddha and the demon at the same time. Buddha and the devil eye? Is what happened in that space real? Zhuo Wen's eyes were filled with bewilderment. At this moment, Xiao He also landed on Zhuo Wen's shoulder. Her small eyes were filled with excitement. She muttered softly, "It's the Buddha and the devil eye." He actually left the Buddha and the devil eye behind. "Kid, your luck is here." "You know about the Buddha and the devil eye?" Zhuan could not help but ask when he saw Xiao Hei's expression. "I've only heard about it. In ancient times, there was a powerful Buddha and a demonic figure. The two were at odds with each other. Hence, a great war broke out. That war was so fierce that the sun and moon lost their light. Even the heavens collapsed. However, the strength of the Buddha and the demonic figure was similar. In the end, the Buddha and the demonic figure fell one after another and turned into the Buddha and the devil Bodhi seeds. Later on, the Buddha and the devil Bodhi seeds were obtained by a Buddhist expert. This person was extremely talented and had a strange way of thinking. He had always been pursuing the power of the Buddha and the demonic figure. In other words, the ultimate destructive power of the fusion of the Buddha and the demonic figure. In the end, after 1,000 years of comprehension, he refined the Buddha and the devil Bodhi seeds into the powerful Buddha and the devil eye. At this point, Xiao Hei's face revealed a tinge of admiration. It was obvious that he admired the Buddhist expert. Then who is that expert? Zhuan knew that the Buddhist expert that Xiao Hei was talking about should be the young monk in the space. This person entered the path of the Buddha and the demonic figure and gave birth to the Buddha and the devil eye. He could control the power of the Buddha and the demonic figure. He could even combine the power of the Buddha and the demonic figure to unleash a powerful force. This person was very famous in ancient times. His name was the Fighting Buddha Demon Saint. Kid, the Fighting Buddha Demon Saint was also a terrifying saint. He was as famous as Sir God Fenglei in ancient times. You should know that Sir God Fenglei possessed the holy symbol of Fenglei and had a unique advantage. However, the Fighting Buddha Demon Saint relied on his own comprehension of the Buddha and the devil eye to contend with Sir God Fenglei. This showed that he was extraordinary. The two of them could be considered as the rising stars of the ancient era. Many people even thought that they were peerless monsters who could ascend to the divine realm. However, the great calamity 10,000 years ago completely changed the fate of the monstrous geniuses of that era. Blackie sighed. Zhuan's face revealed a shocked expression. He did not expect the young monk to have such a powerful background. From the title of the Fighting Buddha Demon Saint, he could tell that this person was extraordinary. Because of this statue, the Buddha and the demon Bodhi seed has been completely transformed into the Buddha demon eye. You don't need to refine it anymore. Now, what you need to do is to transplant the Buddha demon eye into your glabella. If you succeed in the transplant, not only will your damaged sea of consciousness be completely restored, but you will also be able to control the power of the Buddha and the demonic figure. The benefits to you will be unimaginable. Nguyen frowned and said with uncertainty, "Xiao Hei, are you sure that the transplant of the Buddha demon eye won't be dangerous?" "Nonsense. Of course there will be danger. If the transplant fails, your sea of consciousness will be completely destroyed and will never be able to recover." Xiao Hei rolled his eyes and continued, "However, it's a good thing that you have the Buddha and demon dual polarity earth on you. This thing has a very good protective effect for the transplant of the Buddha demon eye. It can greatly increase the success rate of the transplant." The Buddha and demon dual polarity earth can actually increase the success rate of the transplant of the Buddha demon eye? Zhuan asked in surprise. As he spoke, a piece of soil that was a mixture of gold and black appeared in Zhuowen's hand. It was the Buddha and demon dual polarity earth that Zhuowen had obtained previously. Place the Buddha and demon dual polarity earth near the glabella of the statue in front of you. The power of the Buddha demon eye is very terrifying. Without the help of the Buddha and demon dual polarity earth, you won't be able to withstand it. Xiao He said indifferently. Nodding his head, Zhuowen held the Buddha and demon dual polarity earth in his right hand and used his yuan power to make the Buddha and demon dual polarity earth adhere to the surface of his palm. Then he reached into the glabella of the statue. Rumble! A terrifying Buddha and demon force flowed out, causing Zhuowen's right hand to feel numb. However, Zhuowen also realized that the Buddha and demon dual polarity earth that adhered to the surface of his palm was like a soft sponge, dissolving the Buddha and demon force. To be more precise, it absorbed the Buddha and demon force. Come out! Grabbing the Buddha demon eye, Zhuowen pulled it back. Instantly, the Buddha demon eye was pulled out by him. The golden black light immediately filled the entire cave. At the same time, the Buddha and demon shadows intertwined and circled around the cave. Zhuowen spread out his right hand, and the strange eye of the Buddha and the demonic shadow appeared at the same time, quietly lying in the center of his palm. The pupil of this eye also emitted a strange golden black color. If one were to look at this pupil carefully, one would see a huge Buddha and demonic shadow in it. Swoosh! Chapter 905. Transplanting the Buddha demon eye. Zhuowen's eyes were filled with determination. His sea of consciousness had already been messed up by Emperor Qing, and he could barely use any mental energy. On the other hand, the Buddha demon eye could help Zhuowen reconstruct his sea of consciousness. It could even make his sea of consciousness stronger. Moreover, even if it failed, the price would only be his sea of consciousness being completely destroyed. Zhuowen felt that this price was not too high. After all, his sea of consciousness was already in such a state, and it was no different from being destroyed. Even if the transplanting of the Buddha demon eye failed, it wouldn't be a great loss to Zhuowen. In fact, what Zhuowen didn't know was that this price was under the premise that he had the Buddha and demon polarity earth. If he didn't have the Buddha and demon polarity earth to help offset the side effects of the Buddha demon eye, the price might not be so little. It might even endanger his life. Then let's begin. Xiao He nodded. With a wave of her right hand, the Buddha and demon polarity earth on Zhuowen's palm immediately wrapped around the Buddha demon eye. Then, under Xiao He's control, it slowly moved towards the center of Zhuowen's brows. Finally, the Buddha demon eye arrived at the center of Zhuowen's brows. Zhuowen only felt a sharp pain between his brows. Then, he could clearly feel that the Buddha and demon polarity earth that wrapped around the Buddha demon eye was slowly moving towards the center of Zhuowen's brows. Fine beads of sweat dripped down from Zhuowen's forehead. Zhuowen's body was also constantly trembling. His face was pale and bloodless, as if he was a bedridden patient. The process of transplanting the Buddha demon eye is extremely slow and extremely important. If there's even the slightest bit of negligence, all the previous efforts will be wasted. Therefore, you have to endure it and don't pass out halfway. Xiao He's cautious voice once again resounded in Zhuowen's mind. Hearing this, Zhuowen nodded. He gritted his teeth and endured the sharp pain between his brows, maintaining a clear mind at all times. Just as Zhuowen was transplanting the Buddha demon eye in the cave, the faces of Demon Daozi and Qing Su in the air above the dense forest weren't looking too good. The two of them had been searching this dense forest for an entire day and night. With their speed, they had practically searched the entire dense forest several times, but they still couldn't find any traces of Zhuowen. Looks like Zhuowen should have left this forest. Qing Su, I won't accompany you to search here. Goodbye. Master Demon coldly glanced at Master Qing Su beside him. After saying this, he simply left the forest. It was clear that Master Demon didn't want to waste his efforts. Qing Su's expression was extremely ugly. Because Demon Taoist had obtained the Buddha demon Bodhi tree from him, this could be considered a great harvest. Therefore, his desire for Zhuowen was not as strong as before. However, Qing Su was different. He had painstakingly pulled out the Buddha demon Bodhi tree and originally thought it would be a great harvest. He didn't expect demon Daozi to snatch it away and end up giving it to someone else. In addition, Zhuowen's nascent soul was very attractive to him. Therefore, Qing Su's desire to find Zhuon was much stronger than demon Daozi's. He really wasn't willing to return empty-handed. Thinking of this, Qing Su didn't return to Yen City like demon Daozi. Instead, he began to frantically search the dense forest like a madman, not letting go of any corner. 3 days later, Qing Su quietly floated above the dense forest. His face was ashen. He had been desperately searching for 3 days, but he still hadn't found any clues. Forget it. With a sigh, Qing Su took a step and disappeared above the dense forest. Clearly, he had also given up on searching for Zhuon. What Qing Su didn't know was that not long after he left the dense forest, Zhuon slowly opened his eyes in an extremely remote cave in the dense forest. At this moment, an eye intertwined with golden and black light gently opened between his eyebrows. In an instant, Zhuowen's body was shrouded by the Buddha's shadow and the demon's shadow. It made Zhuon look dignified but also evil. It was like a contradictory combination. In Zhuowen's knowledge sea, an ancient Buddha and a demon stood opposite each other. Demon Qi and Buddha Qi intertwined and filled Zhuowen's knowledge sea. Moreover, Zhuon found that the ancient Buddha in his knowledge sea possessed a powerful Buddha Qi that was constantly combining with the great Sun Nirvana Qi in his body. Under such a combination, the ancient Buddha and the great Sun Nirvana Qi were constantly growing stronger. This ancient Buddha is actually operating the great Sun Nirvana Qi in my body? Feeling the surging great Sun Nirvana Qi in the meridians in his body, Zhuowen's eyes shone brightly. He was pleasantly surprised. The great Sun Nirvana Qi is a Buddhist cultivation method. Since there is an ancient Buddha in your knowledge sea, it will bring unimaginable benefits to your cultivation of the great Sun Nirvana Qi. Xiao He came to Zhuowen's shoulder and teased him. Hearing this, Zhuowen nodded. Suddenly, he had an idea and said, "If the ancient Buddha in my knowledge sea brings unimaginable benefits to my cultivation of the Buddhist cultivation method, then wouldn't the demon in my knowledge sea be of great benefit to my cultivation of the demon sex cultivation method?" Indeed, the ancient Buddha and demon in your knowledge sea both contain the origin of the Buddha and the demon sect. As long as you have the Buddha and the demon sex cultivation method in your body, you don't need to cultivate it yourself. The cultivation method in your body will automatically operate. Xiao He nodded and continued. Moreover, since the demon in your knowledge sea contains the essence of the demon sect, it will bring unimaginable benefits to your control over the power of the blood demon. After all, you still have the blood inheritance seal in your hands. The blood demon will not be able to do anything to you. Zhuowen's eyes shone brightly. If what Xiao He said was true, then with the existence of the demon in his knowledge sea, wouldn't it mean that he could control the power of the demon sect from back then? Back then, when Zhuon had been possessed by the demon sect, the power that he controlled was indeed extremely powerful. If Zhuon could control that power back then, Zhuowen's strength would have increased by several times. With the Buddha demon eye, you can now switch between the Buddha and demon states. If you switch to the Buddha state, then your cultivation of the Buddha sex cultivation method will be extremely fast. If you switch to the demon state, then you can use the demon sex Tao to cultivate the power of the demon sect. Furthermore, your current strength isn't too strong. You won't be able to unleash the true power of the Buddha demon eye. However, just the switching between the Buddha and demon states will bring unimaginable benefits to your strength, Xiao He said plainly. Zhuon also knew how powerful the Buddha demon eye was. After all, it was the third eye of the fighting Buddha demon sage. The fighting Buddha demon sage was one of the existences that were closest to God in ancient times. Naturally, the Buddha demon eye was extremely powerful. However, the current Zhuon was still too weak. Naturally, it was difficult for him to unleash the full power of the Buddha demon eye. Let's talk about it after I recover my strength. As for the Buddha demon eye, it won't be too late to study it after my strength has fully recovered. Slowly closing the Buddha demon eye, Zhuon waved his right hand and took out the Yuanying of the white-brow heavenly master. Zhuon, what are you trying to do now? The white-brow heavenly master glared at Zhuowen as soon as he appeared. At the same time, there was a trace of fear on his face. What else can I do? Can't you see that I'm only a three-wheel ultimate emperor? Naturally, I'll use you to help me recover my strength. Zhuowen sneered. He grabbed the white-brow heavenly master with his right hand and began to silently absorb the power of the white-brow heavenly master's yuaning. The pitiful white-brow heavenly master could only allow himself to be carried by Zhuowen in humiliation. He allowed Zhuowen to absorb the power of his yuaning. Although he howled in protest, Zhuowen didn't even spare him a glance. Time flowed by, and a month's time quickly passed. Within the lush forest, countless birds flew past, and a gentle breeze blew past, causing the fallen leaves on the ground to flutter. Boom! An explosive sound suddenly rang out. In an inconspicuous corner of the dense forest, there was a cave. At this moment, the cave actually collapsed, bursting into countless pieces of rubble. A figure stepped out from the rubble. This person had a delicate face. He was about 20 years old. His black hair fluttered in the wind and there was a smile on his face. After a month, I've finally completely recovered my cultivation. White-brow heavenly master, thank you for taking care of me this month. This person was Zhuowen. At this moment, the ball of light in Zhuowen's right hand was so dim that it was almost transparent. The white-brow heavenly master within the ball of light was extremely weak. Over the past month, Zhuowen had basically taken everything from him. His yuaning's power had almost been completely absorbed by Zhuowen. If it weren't for the fact that a heavenly master's yuaning was extremely powerful, the white-brow heavenly master's soul would probably have dissipated by now. Zhuowen, you bastard, what do you take me for? Bastard! White-brow heavenly master roared through gritted teeth. Do you want to recover your physical body? Zhuowen suddenly said. The originally furious white-brow heavenly master was stunned when he heard Zhuowen's words. Immediately, he said somewhat incredulously, "You're willing to recover my physical body? If you acknowledge me as your master, after I reach Yen City, I'll immediately gather the materials and refine a physical body for you, returning you the freedom and dignity of an Empyrean realm powerhouse. How about it?" Zhuowen said with a faint smile. But white-brow heavenly master's expression was ugly as he said coldly, "You want me to acknowledge you as my master? Are you dreaming? You, a junior, actually also want me to acknowledge you as my master? Although I'm a junior, you were defeated at my hands back then. Could it be that this isn't enough? Furthermore, if you keep living in the state of yuaning as time passes, you'll only become weaker and weaker. Furthermore, you won't be able to cultivate to replenish your energy. You'll die without a doubt. Could it be that you feel that you have another choice?" Zhuowen said with a sneer. White-brow heavenly master's face darkened, his eyes flickering endlessly. It was unknown what he was thinking about. "I'll only give you 3 breaths of time. If I count to 3 and you don't make a decision, I'll personally take action and make your soul dissipate, thoroughly vanishing from this world." Zhuowen's words at this moment were filled with cold, killing intent. His words were absolutely not joking. White-brow heavenly master's face turned stiff, his gaze gloomy. 1, 2, 3. Talking up to here, the killing intent in Zhuowen's gaze was seemingly corporeal, piercing until white-brow heavenly master's entire body trembled. Chapter 906. The 5 celestial venerables servants. The corners of Zhuowen's lips curled up when he saw celestial venerate white-brow yield. He faintly smiled and said, "Since you've accepted me as your master, extract a strand of your soul origin and give it to me for safekeeping." Celestial venerate white-brow's face changed slightly. Soul origin was his most important thing. If Zhuowen obtained it, his life would be completely under Zhuowen's control. However, celestial venerate white-brow had no choice but to yield. He did not want his soul to disperse just like that. After all, it was not easy for him to reach the celestial venerate level. If he encountered a fortuitous encounter in the future, he might even be able to reach the Emperor realm. How could he be willing to let his soul disperse just like that? "Hurry up," Zhuowen urged coldly. Celestial venerate white-brow gently sighed. He tapped his forehead with his right hand and a golden line was extracted from the depths of his forehead. It quietly hovered above his palm. This was a strand of his soul origin. At that moment, Celestial Venerate Whitebrow's face paled and his body trembled. His nascent soul also became fainter. Clearly, extracting the soul origin had affected him quite a bit. Swish. Zhuan accepted Celestial Venerate Whitebrow's soul origin and pressed it into his sea of consciousness. Afterward, he flipped his right hand and pressed it against Celestial Venerate Whitebrow's ball of light. Strands of surging origin energy surged into the ball of light. Immediately, Celestial Venerate Whitebrow's fainter body gradually solidified. Celestial Venerate Whitebrow looked at Zhuan in surprise when he felt the surging origin energy enter his body. Clearly, he had not expected Zhuan to do something like this. There's no need to look at me like that. Since you've already given me your soul origin, you're mine now. I basically won't mistreat my own people, Zhuan said indifferently. Celestial Venerate Whitebrow nodded. He did not say anything else, but there was a sliver of surprise in his eyes. Zhuan waved his right hand and 4 balls of light appeared in front of him. They were the nascent souls of Guanghan Heavenly Lord, Huangjiao Heavenly Lord, Shiyu, and Xiang Tianzuan. At this moment, the nascent souls of the 4 celestial sovereigns opened their eyes and glared at Zhuan. Xiang Tianzuan said coldly to Zhuan, "How long are you going to seal our nascent souls? I will give the 4 of you a choice. First, hand over your soul essence and acknowledge me as your master. Not only will I unlock the seal on your nascent souls, I will also help you reconstruct your fleshly bodies. Second, your souls will be destroyed immediately," Zhuan said coldly. What? When the 4 Empyreans heard this, they were all shocked. Zhuan actually wanted them to acknowledge him as their master. They were dignified Empyrean powerhouses, but they actually had to acknowledge a junior as their master. How was this possible? Are you dreaming? This old man would rather have his soul destroyed than recognize a junior like you, who stinks of milk, as my master. Empyrean Ziyang snorted coldly. He was actually not afraid of Zhuo Wen's threat. With Xiang Tianzuan as an example, the other 3 Empyreans did not give in. They all glared at Zhuo angrily. Do the 4 of you think that I, Yun, won't dare to do anything to you? Zhuan stared at Xiang Tianzuan and said coldly, "Since you are so stubborn, I will fulfill your wish and destroy your soul." After saying that, Zhuan blasted out his right palm and enveloped Xiang Tianzuan. Terrifying origin energy poured out like the might of the heavens. Xiang Tianzuan's expression changed drastically. He wanted to dodge Zhuowen's palm. Unfortunately, his nascent soul was imprisoned in the ball of light and could not resist at all. Boom! With a palm smashing down, Empyrean Ziyang was directly slapped into the ground, smashing out a crater that was several feet wide. At the same time, Zhuowen's attack was not slow. Terrifying attacks mercilessly swept towards Xiang Tianzuan below. For a moment, terrifying origin energy fluctuations constantly circulated in the space. Meanwhile, Heavenly Venerate Ziyang's heart-wrenching cries were like midnight snacks that echoed endlessly, causing Guanghan, Xia and Huang Liang's scalps to go numb. Zhuowen was serious. He was not just joking. If they did not obey him, their souls would be scattered. Thinking of this, the 3 celestial sovereigns could not help but panic. Soon, the screams below gradually weakened. Zhuowen's right hand sucked, and Xiang Tianzuan's nascent soul was held in Zhuowen's hand. At this moment, Xiang Tianzuan's nascent soul had become extremely faint. Zhuowen did not show any mercy just now. Xiang Tianzuan was now like a dead dog, gasping for breath. "Go to hell!" Zhuowen's cold voice rang out. His eyes were full of cold killing intent. A terrifying origin energy was spat out, trying to completely annihilate Xiang Tianzuan's nascent soul. "No. I'm willing to surrender. I'm willing to hand over my soul origin and recognize you as my master." Empyrean Ziyang screamed in horror. His voice was sharp and shrill. He finally realized how ruthless Zhuowen was. If he really didn't obey, Zhuowen might really annihilate him. He was a supreme expert at the peak of the Empyrean realm, only half a step away from stepping into the imperial power realm. After cultivating for a lifetime, He had already reached this level. How could Zhang Tianzuan be willing to die like this? Previously, the reason why he was so unyielding was not only because of his own pride, but also because he thought that Zhuowen would not really attack him. However, Zhuowen's behavior was far beyond his expectations. He actually wanted to completely annihilate him, so Zhang Tianzuan was afraid and surrendered. The corners of Zhuowen's mouth curled up. He stopped attacking and said indifferently, "If you surrender to me, you don't have to feel that it's not worth it. I can promise you that if I reach the Imperial Realm one day, I will return your soul origin and set you free." As soon as these words came out, Zhang Tianzuan, who was still a little unwilling, completely surrendered. Zhuowen had already made a promise, which could be considered as benevolent. If he did not know what was good for him, then only death would await him. "Greetings, master." Zhang Tianzuan knelt on one knee and touched his forehead with his right hand. Without hesitation, he pulled out a wisp of his soul origin and handed it to Zhuowen. Since Zhang Tianzuan had already done so, the Guanghan Heavenly Sovereign and the other two did not insist. They also took out their soul origin and handed it to Zhuowen. After pressing the 4 soul origins into their foreheads, Zhuowen said to Zhang Tianzuan and the others, "Reconstructing your physical bodies requires a huge amount of resources. After I go to Yen City, I will think of a way for you. During this period of time, keep them in your spirit rings for a while." Zhang Tianzuan and the others did not refuse. They cupped their hands and were all kept in Zhuowen's spirit rings. "It's time to go to Yen City," Zhuowen muttered to himself. With a stomp of his foot, he turned into a stream of light and disappeared into the sky above the dense forest. At the end of a vast and boundless plain, a huge city stood on the plain like a savage giant beast, as if it had existed since ancient times. Strangely, there was a monstrous sea of fire in the sky above this huge city. This sea of fire spread and covered the entire city. This city that was shrouded in the sea of fire was the most prosperous city in the Yenxian Empire, Yen City. Swoosh! A stream of light instantly arrived near Yen City. When he saw the endless sea of fire in the sky above the city, his eyes were filled with shock. This person was indeed Zhuowen, who had traveled non-stop for 3 days. As expected, the core cities of the empire are all extraordinary. As he stared at the Yen City before him, Zhuowen could not help but recall the royal city of the Qin Xian Empire. In the sky above the royal city, there was an illusory shadow of a huge dragon, while this Yen City was a sea of fire. Evidently, the cities that were overseen by emperor-level experts would all have their own strange phenomena in the sky above them. The Qing Emperor was like this, and so was the Yen Emperor of the Yen Xian Empire. "I wonder which part of Yen City is Miss Lingyu's Ruan clan?" Zhuowen softly muttered to himself. His feet did not slow down as he directly stepped into Yen City. Back when he was with the Ruan clan, Nguyen had promised Ruan Lingyu that once his cultivation recovered, he would help her expel the cold qi in her body. However, Nguyen had already changed his appearance before entering Yen City. After all, his true appearance had been seen by Mo Ying and Zui Qingfeng. Given the importance the two of them placed on rare treasures, they would definitely report Zhuowen to the sect behind him. If Zhuowen swaggered into Yen City with his original appearance, he would undoubtedly be courting death. At this moment, Zhuowen's appearance had already turned into that of a waxen youth. He looked sickly, as if a gust of wind could blow him away. Furthermore, he had already retracted his venerable stage aura, only revealing the cultivation of an ultimate two-wheel emperor. After all, possessing the aura of a venerable stage cultivator at such a young age would undoubtedly attract the attention of many. That would greatly increase the chances of his identity being exposed. Most of the people walking on the streets of Yen City were cultivators. Furthermore, there was no lack of powerful ultimate emperor stage cultivators. One could even see a few ultimate venerable stage cultivators. However, there were very few of them, and most of them were ultimate emperor stage cultivators. Many cultivators had set up stalls on both sides of the street, selling all sorts of things. There were soul treasures, secret techniques, armor techniques, elixirs, and so on. As long as it was related to the martial Tao, the surrounding stalls would sell everything. As he looked at the stalls on both sides of the street, Yuan asked Xiao He in his heart, Xiao He, what materials do you need to reconstruct a body? Xiao He sneered, Kid, do you think that reconstructing a body is easy? You've already destroyed the bodies of those 5 heavenly sovereigns. It won't be that easy to reconstruct a body suitable for them. Zhuowen raised his eyebrows slightly as a bitter smile appeared on the corners of his mouth. It seemed that he had underestimated the difficulty of reconstructing a body. It's a good thing that you've only reconstructed the body of a heavenly sovereign. If it was the body of an emperor realm cultivator, your current wealth would be enough to bankrupt you. Xiao He ridiculed. Is the price that high? Zhuowen was somewhat speechless. Of course it's high. With the amount of spirit stones you currently have, I feel that it would be a little difficult to reconstruct the body of heavenly sovereign by Mei, let alone Xiang Tianzuan. Xiao He said indifferently. Chapter 907. Setting up a stall. Kid, don't you have quite a few useless soul treasures on you? If you exchange these soul treasures for spirit stones, you will gain quite a bit of wealth. At that time, you will be able to purchase the materials needed to reconstruct your body. Xiao He suddenly said to Zhuowen. Upon hearing this, Zhuowen's eyes brightened. Xiao He was right. Now that his cultivation had reached the utmost being stage, earthly soul treasures were no longer of much use to him and could be exchanged for spirit stones. The street vendors on both sides of Yen City are so busy. I can find a stall here to sell soul treasures from spirit rings. As he spoke, Zhuowen turned his attention to the situation on both sides of the street. However, he was astonished to find that both sides of the street were completely occupied by vendors. There was basically no empty space at all. This caused Zhuowen to feel rather depressed. After walking for a while, Zhuowen suddenly discovered a middle-aged man on the left in front of him. Perhaps he had some matters to attend to, so he hurriedly packed up his stall and hurriedly left. After the middle-aged man left, Zhuowen took a step forward and arrived at the stall in an instant. With a flick of his finger, he retrieved a brocade cloth from his spirit ring and spread it on the ground. At the stall next to Zhuowen's was a burly man. This burly man's aura was vigorous and he was an ultimate 4-wheel emperor. When he saw that Zhuowen was young, his complexion was waxen and his aura was weak. A trace of disdain involuntarily appeared on his face. Zhuowen did not pay attention to the burly man's expression. With another flick of his finger, he retrieved 2 glowing earthly soul treasures. One of them was a pitch-black longsword, while the other was a brocade cloth. They were likely defensive soul treasures. Of course, given Zhuowen's inventory, it was impossible for him to only have 2 earthly soul treasures on him. However, taking out too many at once would inevitably arouse the greed of others. 2 earthly soul treasures? The burly man next door originally had a look of disdain on his face. However, when he saw Zhuowen casually take out 2 earthly soul treasures, he could not help but reveal a trace of emotion. Moreover, looking at the surface of the soul treasures on Zhuowen's stall, the quality was obviously not low. The glow emitted by the surface of the earthly soul treasure quickly attracted the attention of the passers-by. They were all attracted by Zhuowen's earthly soul treasure. Earth-rank spirit treasures were extremely rare to low-level Ultimate Emperor realm cultivators. Once they possessed an Earth-rank spirit treasure, their combat strength would increase by quite a bit. However, when the cultivators in the surroundings saw that the owner of the stall was a young man with a sallow complexion, they couldn't help but be surprised. In particular, the young man's aura wasn't very strong. He was only around the level of a second-wheel Ultimate Emperor. Generally speaking, Earth-rank spirit treasures would be of great help to second-wheel Ultimate Emperor realm cultivators, but this young man was selling them. Moreover, he was selling 2 at once, so everyone couldn't help but guess that he had more than 2 Earth-rank spirit treasures. After all, someone who could casually take out 2 earthly soul treasures like this would definitely have better soul treasures on him that he could use. When they thought of this, the eyes of some of the cultivators in the surroundings flickered. No one knew what they were thinking. A middle-aged man with a goatee walked out and asked Zhuowen with a smile, "Little brother, how much are you selling this longsword soul treasure for?" "Fixed price. 5,000 mid-grade spirit stones." Zhuowen said indifferently. This pitch-black longsword was a high-grade Earth-rank spirit treasure. It was very powerful. If an ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator possessed it, it would be of great help to them. Therefore, 5,000 mid-grade spirit stones was not considered expensive. The middle-aged man with the goatee frowned slightly. It was obvious that Zhuowen's price was too high, causing him to hesitate. Little brother, sell it to me for 3,000 mid-grade spirit stones. How about we become friends? The man with the goatee suddenly smiled. Zhuowen shook his head, but he was laughing coldly in his heart. This longsword soul treasure could cut through iron like it was mud. Its power was vast and mighty. Even 5,000 mid-grade spirit stones was not considered expensive. However, this man actually wanted to buy it for 3,000 mid-grade spirit stones. How could there be such a good deal? What? Are you looking down on me? The man with the goatee's expression was cold as he stared fixedly at Chun. There was a trace of cold killing intent in his eyes. He did not even try to conceal his killing intent at all. Zhuowen's gaze gradually turned cold when he sensed the killing intent from the man with the goatee. This man with the goatee actually wanted to kill him just because he, Zhuowen, refused to sell his soul treasure. The surrounding men all revealed looks of ridicule. They all knew that this young man who had set up the stall was only a second-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator. There were certain unspoken rules when setting up a stall in Yen City. If the stall owner was weak and the items he took out were extremely precious, then it was very easy for stronger customers to bully him or even rob him. Little brother, I've already given you a lot of face and was willing to buy your soul treasure longsword for 3,000 mid-grade spirit stones. However, you don't appreciate it. How about this? I'll give you another chance. Sell it to me for 300 mid-grade spirit stones and I won't pursue your rudeness, the man with the goatee said coldly. Scram. Zhuowen did not want to waste any more words with the man with the goatee and directly told him to scram. The man with the goatee was getting more and more arrogant. Now, he actually wanted to sell it to him for 300 mid-grade spirit stones. This was no different from selling scrap metal. You're telling me to scram? Good. A mere second-will Ultimate Emperor Realm Jr. dares to speak to me like this. I think you're tired of living. The man with the goatee was so angry that he laughed. He stomped his foot and the aura of a third-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator burst out. He then formed a palm with his right hand and blasted it at Chun. The surrounding practitioners were not the least bit surprised when they saw this scene. Such fights were all too common in Yen City. In particular, cases of the strong bullying the weak occurred every day. Instead, the surrounding practitioners felt that Zhuowen was too unappreciative. If he had swallowed his pride and sold the longsword soul treasure to the man with the goatee, things would have been much better. Instead, he would likely have to suffer a little now. Looks like you didn't hear a single word of my words. In that case, I can only beat you until you scram. Zhuowen coldly chuckled. With a flick of his sleeve, Yuan power gushed out from his right palm. His robes fluttered and directly slammed into the man with the goatee's palm. Crack! The clear sound of bones cracking rang out. The man with the goatee's expression stiffened as he saw his right hand being twisted at an irregular angle. An intense pain spread from his right hand, causing the man to involuntarily scream out in pain. Scram! Just as he finished speaking, the man with the goatee was sent flying backwards in an extremely sorry fashion. He crashed heavily a dozen meters away, clutching his completely twisted right arm as he rolled back and forth while screaming in pain. When they saw the man with the goatee's completely twisted right arm, everyone knew that his right arm was probably completely crippled. However, they were even more shocked by the strength of the sallow youth. He was clearly only at the second wheel of the Ultimate Emperor Realm, but he'd actually crippled a third-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm practitioner with a single move. Zhuowen's performance immediately caused fear to appear in the eyes of quite a few practitioners in the surroundings. After sending the man with the goatee flying, Yun continued to sit like a boulder in front of his stall. The man with the goatee had thrown himself into the spear, so he had no one to blame but himself for suffering a great loss. At the same time, Yun also knew that with the man with the goatee as a precedent, The other practitioners would more or less have some misgivings if they wanted to forcefully take something from him. This had saved Juan quite a bit of trouble. "Little brother, the stall you're at originally belonged to me. Don't you think it's a little too much for you to casually take over my stall like this?" Suddenly, the eyes of the burly man next to Juan flickered as he stared at the two earthly soul treasures on Juan's stall. A bright light flashed in his eyes as his indifferent voice slowly sounded out. "Oh, so this is your stall?" Turning his head, Juan stared at the brawny man next to him with a cold look in his eyes. He had seen with his own eyes that another cultivator had left due to an urgent matter, so he, Juan, had taken over this stall. Moreover, the stalls on both sides of Yen City were originally free to be used by practitioners. Whoever arrived first would be the first to use it. There was no such thing as this burly man had said. "Of course. Little brother, if you wish to continue setting up your stall here, you'll have to pay a certain amount of rent, right?" The burly man indifferently said. "Rent? Then tell me, how much rent do you want me to pay?" Juan followed the burly man's words with a smile. The corners of the burly man's mouth raised slightly. "Don't you have two soul treasures on your stall? You only need to take out one as rent and you'll be able to continue setting up your stall here." Juan smiled. He also knew that this burly man's objective was the same as the goateed man's. Both of them had their eyes on the soul treasures on his stall. However, this burly man was even more sinister than the goateed man. He actually wanted to gain something for nothing. However, this burly man did indeed have the qualifications to do so. This was because his cultivation was much stronger than the goateed man's. He had already reached the peak of the ultimate Four Wheels Emperor stage and was many times stronger than the goateed man. "Then according to what you've said, all the streets in Yen City belong to you? Does that mean that you're on equal footing with the Flame Emperor?" Juan teased. The burly man's expression darkened slightly as he coldly replied, "Little brother, don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Don't think that you're all that just because you defeated an ultimate Three Wheels Emperor trash. Let me tell you, there are countless people in Yen City who are stronger than you. You're nothing compared to them. Even if I'm nothing, I'm still stronger than you. What qualifications do you have? What face do you have to actually use an earthly soul treasure as rent? Do you think that I'm a 3-year-old kid, or is there something wrong with your brain?" Juan mercilessly retorted. The burly man's expression stiffened. Soon after, a bone-chilling coldness appeared in his eyes as he stared at Juan and said, "Do you dare to say that again? What else can you do other than bark like a dog in front of me?" Juan icily replied. The burly man roared and actually directly attacked Juan. A fist flew out and a thunderous explosion erupted as wild winds howled around them. "Looks like my methods aren't vicious enough. Since you're so eager to die, I'll fulfill your wish." Chapter 908. SS Stellar Sword. As he spoke, Don stomped his foot. Facing the burly man's punch, he was not afraid at all. His right hand grabbed the burly man's fist, and his origin energy surged out as he exerted force. The burly man's right hand was actually broken by Juan. Then, Juan took a step forward without hesitation. His left hand formed a fist, and under the influence of his origin energy, a terrifying gust of wind was stirred up as his fist landed heavily on the burly man's abdomen. Boom! The burly man's entire body arched up like a cooked shrimp. His entire body trembled, and his eyes bulged as he spat out blood. He was like a faucet that could not be stopped. At this moment, the surroundings suddenly became extremely quiet. The goateed man with 3 wheels had been defeated by Juan in a single move. Perhaps the crowd could somewhat understand why he had been defeated. However, this burly man was obviously at the peak of the 4-wheel Ultimate Emperor realm, yet he had ended up in an even worse state than the goateed man. Everyone knew that this extremely unremarkable young man with a sallow complexion had most likely concealed his cultivation. He was at least at the peak of the 5-wheel Ultimate Emperor realm. "I was wrong. Let me go. I won't dare to do it again." The burly man's body was arched, and his voice was extremely weak. There was even a trace of fear in his voice. The burly man had never imagined that the young man in front of him would be so terrifying. He had been reduced to such a state with just one strike. He knew that this sickly young man could kill him as easily as moving his hand. Thus, the burly man was terrified. He was even more annoyed at himself for provoking this fiend. Is it enough to say that I was wrong? I just heard that you wanted me to die. Now that you realize that you're no match for me, you're begging for mercy? If my strength was weaker than yours, I'm afraid I would have already fallen in your hands. Zhuowen's voice was cold and emotionless. Then he clenched his left fist, and a trace of golden light flowed around it. Then he punched the burly man's abdomen again. The burly man did not even make a sound before he exploded into a cloud of blood. Gasps could be heard one after another. Looking at the burly man who had exploded into a bloody mist, everyone was stunned. Then, their gazes shifted slightly and landed on Zhuo. Their eyes were filled with fear. It was too ruthless. The young man before them had an ordinary appearance, and his cultivation didn't seem to be much either. However, the strength that he could unleash was actually so powerful. What made the crowd even more fearful was the ruthless methods of the young man before them. With just a single word of disagreement, he had used a lightning-fast method to completely kill him. Moreover, not even his corpse was left behind. When I do business, I pay particular attention to fairness and justice. If you are interested in buying, I will naturally welcome you. Even if you are not satisfied with my spiritual treasure, I will not pester you too much. However, if some people think that I am easy to bully and want to take it by force, I will kill them even if I am not talented. Even though Zhuowen's voice was not loud, every word was like a gem, exploding in the crowd's ears like thunder. This caused some of the restless practitioners in the surroundings to slowly shrink back. After all, there was the precedent of the goateed man and the burly man. As he gazed at the silent practitioners in the surroundings, the corners of Zhuowen's mouth curled up slightly. He did not say anything else as he once again sat down cross-legged at his stall, waiting for the true buyers. With Zhuowen's previous intimidation method, the surrounding practitioners shook their heads and left. Even though they were extremely coveting the earthly soul treasures on Zhuowen's stall, they did not have 5,000 middle-grade spirit stones on them. It was likely that only the disciples of the large clans would be able to take out so many spirit stones. Time gradually passed. The sun, which was originally high in the sky, gradually sank and landed on the ground. The blood-red rays of the setting sun shone upon Yen City, making it appear rather mournful. However, Zhuowen's eyebrows were slightly furrowed. He had already sat here for a day. Even though there were quite a number of practitioners who were attracted by the 2 soul treasures on his stall, after hearing Zhuowen's fixed price, they all shook their heads and left. Looks like setting up a stall is not so easy. Soul treasures are after all too precious. As he muttered to himself, Yuan prepared to tidy up his stall. He knew that the majority of the practitioners who shopped at the street stalls were individual practitioners. Without the support of a strong faction, they were basically poor and it was very difficult for them to take out 5,000 middle-grade spirit stones in one go. Brother, please wait a moment. Are you selling these 2 spiritual treasures in your stall? At this moment, a somewhat scholarly voice sounded out. Soon after, a handsome man dressed in brocade robes led a 16-year-old young lady to Zhuowen's stall. The young lady beside the man stared intently at the long sword soul treasure on Zhuowen's stall. Her eyes were filled with desire. The young lady's expression was too obvious. She clearly wanted the long sword soul treasure on Zhuowen's stall. Zhuowen nodded his head and politely said, "Could it be that this young master wants to buy it?" The scholarly man smiled and nodded his head. Soon after, he turned to the young lady beside him and said, "Su Jin, this longsword soul treasure is an earth upper-tier soul treasure. If you like it, how about I buy it for you?" The young lady named Su Jin's beautiful eyes were filled with joy. She hugged the man's arm and excitedly said, "Really? Big brother Zhong Xing, you are so nice." The scholarly man affectionately scratched Su Jin's nose and gently laughed. "Weren't you the one who kept talking about the longsword soul treasure some time ago? If I didn't buy it for you earlier, wouldn't my ears have grown calluses from all the noise?" How could that be? Su Jin curled her lips and whispered. The scholarly man shook his head helplessly. Soon after, he stared at Juan and said, Brother, how much are you selling this longsword soul treasure for? 5,000 mid-grade spirit stones. Juan calmly said, The price of your longsword soul treasure is quite reasonable. There are 5,000 mid-grade spirit stones in this Qiankuan bag. Brother, you should count carefully. The scholarly man nodded his head. He took out a Qiankuan bag and threw it to Juan. After Juan caught the Qiankuan bag, he casually checked the number of spirit stones in the Qiankuan bag. After confirming that the number was correct, he nodded his head and said, There are indeed 5,000 mid-grade spirit stones. As he spoke, Juan waved his right hand and threw the longsword soul treasure to the scholarly man. After the latter received the longsword soul treasure, he activated the yuan qi in his right hand. Suddenly, the originally black longsword actually emitted a dazzling starlight. The originally unremarkable body of the sword actually became as smooth as water, sparkling and translucent. It looked dreamy and beautiful. This sword is called the Starlight Sword. It has been imbued with the power of the stars. It is as hard as black iron and as sharp as a thin wing. The starlight surrounding the sword has the effect of protecting its owner. It is an extremely good spirit treasure for an ordinary Ultimate Emperor realm practitioner. Juan explained from the side. Good sword. Brother, if this spirit treasure of yours were to be auctioned, I'm afraid it would be worth more than 5,000 mid-grade spirit stones. This time, I, Wu Zongxing, have taken advantage of you. The scholarly man laughed heartily. The young girl standing beside the scholarly man, Su Jin, stared at the starlight sword in Wu Zongxing's hand with her beautiful eyes. She didn't expect that the pitch-black longsword soul treasure would actually be so beautiful. As a woman, she was naturally very satisfied with this sword. Wu Zongxing? This person is actually Wu Zongxing. Such a person actually came to a street stall to buy things? I'm afraid he came out to accompany the young girl beside him. That young girl should be Wu Zongxing's beloved younger sister, Wu Sujin. I really didn't expect that this pair of genius siblings would appear here. After the scholarly man announced his name, the surrounding people burst into a frenzy of discussion. Juan also came to know from the surrounding discussions that this man and woman in front of him were actually the direct descendants of the Wu clan. The Wu clan was one of the 4 great clans of Yan City. It was a powerful clan that was on par with the Shaoyan clan. This Wu Zongxing was also a rare genius. He was also a genius on the Flame God list. His fame was as great as the Shaoyan clan's Shaoyan Qinglin. After purchasing the Starlight Sword, Wu Zongxing didn't stay here for long. Instead, he left with Wu Sujin. However, the surrounding practitioners were still discussing spiritedly. Seeing that the sky was about to darken, Zhuowen also packed up his stall. Being able to sell the Star's Sword today was a good harvest for him. Now, with the original spirit stones he had on him and the spirit stones he had obtained from selling the Star's Sword, he had a total of more than 10,000 medium-grade spirit stones. Now, what Zhuowen needed to do was to buy some materials needed to reconstruct his physical body from other stalls in Yan City. This time, Zhuowen planned to first reconstruct the physical body of the White-Brow Heavenly Sovereign. After all, the White-Brow Heavenly Sovereign was the weakest among the 5 Heavenly Sovereigns. The cost of reconstructing his physical body was also the lowest. After strolling around Yan City for more than 2 hours, Wen bought all kinds of materials under the guidance of Xiao He. Among them, there were some extremely valuable materials, causing Zhuowen to feel a heartache. After 2 hours, all the materials that Xiao He needed were basically bought by Zhuowen. Then, Zhuowen found a quiet inn and checked in. In a dark room, Zhuowen quietly sat cross-legged in the room. Xiao He stood on his shoulder. In front of Zhuowen was a small mountain of materials. Xiao He, can we begin now? Zhuowen asked Xiao He. Xiao He nodded and said, We can begin. Release the White-Brow Heavenly Sovereign's nascent soul. The process of reconstructing a physical body will take some time. During this time, do not disturb this Dragon Lord, or all my previous efforts will be wasted. Zhuowen nodded. With a wave of his right hand, the white-brow heavenly sovereign's nascent soul was retrieved from his spirit ring and handed to Xiao He. Meanwhile, Yuan himself quietly retreated to a corner of the room and silently watched Xiao He. At this moment, the white-brow heavenly sovereign's eyes were slightly dazed. However, when he saw Xiao He, he looked as if he had seen a ghost. The dragon soul before him was very powerful. He had experienced it far too many times, causing the white-brow heavenly sovereign to subconsciously show fear whenever he saw Xiao He. White-brow old dog, what are you afraid of? This dragon lord is about to help you reconstruct your physical body. If you are unwilling, this dragon lord will not do anything. Xiao He icily said. Chapter 909. Yuan Clan. The corner of Zhuowen's mouth twitched when he saw Empyrean Master Whitebrow's reaction. It seemed like Empyrean Master Whitebrow had been ravaged by Xiao He back in the spirit ring, causing him to behave like this when he saw Xiao He. Of course. Listen to your Lord Dragon obediently in the future. Lord Dragon will guarantee that you will have meat to eat. Xiao He crossed his arms and raised his chin slightly as he chuckled. Yes, Lord Dragon is right. I don't need meat. I just need soup. Empyrean Master Whitebrow smiled flatteringly. Yes. Then scram to the side first. Lord Dragon needs to prepare to reconstruct your body now. Watch carefully. Xiao He kicked Empyrean Master Whitebrow, causing him to roll far away. Then he stared solemnly at the mountain-like materials in front of him. It's starting now. Xiao He muttered softly as he waved his little claws. Immediately, an ink-black energy swept out and enveloped the mountain-like materials in front of him. The ink-black energy became denser and denser. Then, it gradually enveloped the mountain-like materials in front of Xiao He, turning into a huge black egg that was several feet in size. Zhuowen and Empyrean Master Whitebrow, who had rolled to the corner, stared at Xiao He's technique without blinking. Clearly, they had never seen or heard of the method Xiao He used to reconstruct his body. Lord Dragon needs 7 days. Once 7 days are over, this huge egg will nurture an unconscious body. At that time, the reconstruction of the body will be complete. Xiao He instructed Zhuowen behind him and began to focus on incubating the huge black egg in front of him. 7 days passed very quickly. During these 7 days, Zhuowen and Empyrean Master Whitebrow both stared nervously at the huge black egg in the middle of the room. They both knew that this huge black egg was the key to the reconstruction of Empyrean Master Whitebrow's body. If it failed, Empyrean Master Whitebrow's dream of reconstructing his body would come to nothing. Gotcha! Suddenly, a crisp sound rang out. The huge black egg in the middle of the room trembled violently. Then cracks appeared on its surface, and the black eggshell peeled off. Zhuowen and the Whitebrow Empyrean Exalted Celestial also noticed the abnormality of the huge black egg. They stared at its surface without blinking. The Whitebrow Empyrean Exalted Celestial was the most nervous. After all, this was crucial to whether or not his body could be reconstructed. When the black egg finally cracked open, a young man with long white eyebrows appeared in front of Zhuowen. At this moment, the young man's eyes were closed, and his face was filled with serenity. Whitebrow, get your ass over here. This body has just been refined by this dragon lord. Go in and give it a try. See if it's suitable? Xiao He shouted at Heavenly Venerable Whitebrow, who was in a daze in the corner. As for Zhuowen, his face was filled with black lines. Why did Xiao He's words sound like she was asking Heavenly Venerable Whitebrow to change his clothes? Yes. I'm coming over now. Heavenly Venerable Whitebrow's eyes were filled with joy as he flew over. Then, under Xiao He's guidance, he entered the body's dantian. After a while, the young man slowly opened his eyes. Then he rubbed his hands, rubbed his chest, and stretched his thighs. His face was filled with excitement. Zhuowen was speechless as he looked at Heavenly Venerable Whitebrow's series of actions. He could not bear to look directly at him. You're a big man. Is it really okay for you to do such ecstasy? Zhuowen flicked his finger and took out a white robe. He threw it to Heavenly Venerable Whitebrow and said, "Put on this robe. I still have something to do. Come with me." Heavenly Venerable White Brow put on the robe and said respectfully to Jun, "Thank you, Master and Dragon Lord." Let's go." With that, Juon pushed open the door. With a step, he flew in a certain direction. Heavenly Venerable White Brow followed closely behind Juon. At this moment, Heavenly Venerable White Brow did not reject Juon at all. This was because he realized that the physical body that Xiao He had refined for him was much better than his original body. The best thing was that this physical body was many times younger than his original body. With this physical body, Heavenly Venerable White Brow's martial path would definitely be longer than before. Furthermore, he also knew that the dragon soul Xiao He hidden in Zhuowen's body was probably an extremely terrifying existence when she was alive. On the other hand, Yuan was a freak with abnormal talent. Heavenly Venerable White Brow could see a limitless future in this human and dragon duo. The main reason why Heavenly Venerable White Brow followed Emperor Qing and worked for him wholeheartedly was that Emperor Qing could guide him further on the martial path. Now, Xiao He and Zhuon could give him the same thing. In fact, what Xiao He gave him was even better than what Emperor Qing had given him. In addition, Yuan had promised them that if Heavenly Venerable White Brow's cultivation level advanced to the Emperor realm, they would be able to regain their freedom. Why would Heavenly Venerable White Brow reject such benefits? After all, there was no harm in it for him. Sush. Not long after, Yuan and Heavenly Venerable White Brow arrived in front of a rather luxurious mansion in Yen City. The two words Ruan Residence were written on a signboard above the mansion. Back when they were in Ruan Lingyu's carriage, Yuan had already promised Ruan Lingyu that once his cultivation level recovered, he would help her get rid of the strange cold qi in her body. Now that his cultivation level had recovered, it was time to fulfill his promise. Standing quietly at the entrance of Ruan Residence, Yuan did not directly enter. Instead, he took out a jade talisman with his right hand. With a push of his Yuan power, the jade talisman turned into a ray of light and instantly flew into Ruan Residence. As the ray of light was extremely fast, the guards at the entrance did not notice it. However, these guards were extremely cautious as they stared at Jun. An unfamiliar young man suddenly standing at the entrance of Ruan Residence would naturally arouse suspicion. However, since Jun did not do anything, these guards did not make a move. They only stared at Zhuon from time to time. The jade talisman that Zhuon had used was a communication method. Back then, when Zhuon used the Saint Ice talisman to investigate the cold qi in Ruan Lingyu's body, he had left a mark on her body. This was so that when Zhuon's cultivation level recovered, Zhuon would be able to easily find Ruan Lingyu's location. Indeed, not long after the jade talisman disappeared into the Ruan Residence, Ruan Lingyu walked out of the mansion with the help of Leng Ying. Then her gaze focused on Zhuon, a trace of suspicion in her eyes. Just now, she was washing up in her room when a jade talisman suddenly flew in from the window and appeared in front of her, giving her a fright. Moreover, a line of words appeared on the jade talisman that had suddenly appeared. "Miss Ruan, I have fulfilled my promise and am here to help you expel the cold qi in your body." It was because of these words that Ruan Lingyu immediately thought of Jun. Hence, after washing up, Ruan Lingyu came out with Leng Ying. Due to the phoenix feather that Xiao Yinpu had given her, Ruan Lingyu's complexion was now much rosier than before. However, Leng Ying's expression was still cold, as if someone owed her something. When Ruan Lingyu and Leng Ying saw Zhuon and the white-brow heavenly master standing at the entrance, their gazes converged on Zhuon. Ruan Lingyu's beautiful eyes were complicated, while Leng Ying's expression was cold. There was even a trace of an unknown emotion on her face. Looking at the expressions on their faces, Zhuon narrowed his eyes. He could feel a trace of alienation between the two women. Needless to say, Yuan did not see eye to eye with Leng Ying from the beginning. However, Ruan Lingyu's relationship with Yuan was quite harmonious. However, Ruan Lingyu's current attitude towards Zhuon puzzled Zhuon. "Miss Lingyu, long time no see. Back then in the carriage, I promised that once my cultivation recovered, I would help you expel the cold qi in your body." Zhuon did not think too much about it and smiled at Ruan Lingyu. "Zhuon, you're just talking nonsense, aren't you? Even some patriarchs can't do anything about the cold qi in Lingyu's body. Do you think a piece of trash like you can solve it?" If you want to climb up to our Yuan clan because of this, I advise you to give up. With your status and cultivation, how can you be worthy of our Lingyu? Leng Ying stood in front of Yuan Lingyu and looked down at Zhuowen with her cold eyes. Her beautiful eyes stared at the spirit ring on Zhuowen's finger and continued, "The one who kidnapped me last time was indeed your accomplice. Now, you should take the initiative and hand over the spirit ring." Zhuowen stared coldly at Leng Ying and said calmly, "The one who kidnapped you was not me, but the people from the Shaoyan family. If I really had someone, would I need you to save me back then? Are you still trying to deny it? If you want to get rid of suspicion, then hand over the spirit ring on your finger first." Leng Ying spread out her hands and said rudely, "Scram." Zhuowen spat out in a cold voice. Leng Ying's expression froze and her face turned red. She pointed at Zhuowen and said angrily, "What did you just say? Do you dare to say it again?" "Sister Leng Ying and young Master Zhuo, stop arguing," Yuan Lingyu shouted with a serious face. Hearing this, Leng Ying snorted and said unhappily, "Lingyu, why do you keep helping Zhuowen, an outsider? Have you forgotten what young Master Shaoyan said? This person is definitely not with good intentions when he gets close to you." "Alright, I believe that young Master Zhuo is not that kind of person. When he left our Yuan clan's team, he must have had something important to do, right?" Yuan Lingyu shook her head and looked at Zhuowen apologetically. "Young Master Zhuo, you are a guest after all. You should enter the mansion first. This matter is of great importance and I still need my father's approval. I hope that young Master Zhuo will not forgive me." "I know. Let's go in." Zhuowen nodded and followed Yuan Lingyu and Leng Ying into the Yuan clan's mansion. After entering the mansion, there was a spacious training field in front of them. At this moment, there were many juniors practicing martial arts in the training field. The wind from the punches whistled and the air shook. Yuan Lingyu's group of 4 naturally attracted the attention of the other people in the martial arts practice field. Especially when they saw Zhuowen, who was standing side by side with Yuan Lingyu, these younger generation members all revealed astonished expressions. "Who is that young man? Why is he walking with young Miss Lingyu and seems to be talking and laughing?" The second young master of the Shaoyan family, Shaoyan Pu, already proposed marriage to our Yuan clan yesterday. He wants to marry young Miss Lingyu. Now, young Miss Lingyu is talking and laughing with this strange young man. I don't think it's a good idea. Chapter 9-10. Leng Feng. After passing through the training grounds, Zhuowen followed Yuan Lingyu and Leng Ying into the main hall of the Yuan residence. There were a few middle-aged men with powerful auras in the hall. They also noticed Yuan Lingyu and the other 2 who had just entered. One of the middle-aged men with a dignified expression stepped forward and glanced at Zhuowen. Then he said to Yuan Lingyu and Leng Ying, "Lingyu, Leng Ying, this person isn't from our Yuan clan, right?" "Elder Leng, Yuan is my friend. He's here to expel the cold energy in his body," Yuan Lingyu said softly. "He's Zhuowen?" The dignified middle-aged man narrowed his eyes and stared at Zhuowen with a strange expression. Then, Zhuowen felt a consciousness descend on his body, as if it wanted to see through all his secrets. Zhuowen's face was gloomy. This divine sense was naturally emitted by the middle-aged man in front of him. Generally speaking, directly using one's divine sense to probe the aura of another cultivator was an extremely rude act. If he encountered a cultivator with a fiery temper, he would have already started a fight. This middle-aged man was probably relying on his high cultivation to check Zhuowen's cultivation. Especially when the middle-aged man found that Zhuowen and the white-brow heavenly sovereign's aura were not strong, his eyes revealed a trace of disdain. After all, both Zhuowen and the white-brow heavenly sovereign had already restrained their auras before leaving the house, just in case. "Father, this Zhuowen must be a liar. Even our patriarch was unable to do anything about the cold energy in Lingyu's body. How could this brat with the smell of milk have a way to expel it?" Leng Ying suddenly said to the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man's identity was obvious. He was the second strongest expert in the Yuan family, Leng Feng. His strength was second only to the patriarch of the Yuan family, Yuan Xianfeng. At the same time, he was Leng Ying's father and had an extremely high status in the Yuan family. "Elder Leng, Since I'm already in this state, why not let young Master Zhuo try? If it can really be cured, then everyone will be happy. Ruan Lingyu shook her head and smiled bitterly. It's okay to try, but I'm afraid that some people have ulterior motives. I'm also thinking about your safety, Lung Feng reminded. Then he stared indifferently at Zhuowen and said arrogantly, "You're just an ultimate Emperor Realm second-wheel cultivator. I shouldn't have believed you with such a low cultivation. However, since Lingyu is begging me, I will reluctantly let you try. But I have to remind you, don't harbor any evil intentions. With your cultivation, you're not worthy of Lingyu, and our Wan clan is even more out of your league. Do you understand?" With that, Lung Feng swung his sleeves and sat on an armchair at the back of the hall. His face was full of dignity, as if he was looking down at Zhuowen from above. "Is this how your Ruan clan treats its guests? I came all the way here to help Miss Ruan expel the cold qi in her body, but not only did you use your consciousness to check on me, you're not being polite at all. Do you think that I, Tun, am a servant of your Ruan clan?" Zhuowen said coldly. "Kacha." Lung Feng's right hand, which had been holding a teacup, suddenly froze. Then he exerted force and crushed the teacup. He looked coldly at Zhuowen and said, "You dare refute me? How dare you interrupt when I'm speaking?" With that, Lung Feng slowly stood up. A formless, terrifying aura surged out and enveloped Zhuowen. However, Zhuowen didn't move at all. His cold eyes stared fearlessly at Lung Feng. At the same time, he sent out his consciousness to check on Lung Feng's cultivation. Ultimate 8-wheel Emperor? In an instant, Zhuowen found out Lung Feng's cultivation. He was only an ultimate 8-wheel Emperor, yet he dared to be so arrogant in front of Zhuowen. Zhuowen laughed coldly in his heart. "You dare to use your consciousness to check on me? How dare you?" Lung Feng was startled. Soon after, he let out a furious roar as a terrifying aura erupted. Under this aura, the armchair behind him was completely shattered into countless pieces. In an instant, the atmosphere in the entire hall became extremely stifling. The few elders in the hall took a step forward and surrounded Lung Feng. They stared coldly at Yun and the white-brow heavenly master. "What? Only you can check on me with your consciousness, but I can't check on you?" Zhuowen's mouth was full of mockery as he retorted fearlessly. "What a reckless dog." Lung Ying sneered from the side. Slap. However, before Lang Ying could finish speaking, Zhuowen's foot took a step forward. With a palm wind, he viciously slapped Ling Ying's right cheek. Immediately, the latter's entire body spun like a top before heavily falling onto the ground. "You dare to hit me?" Lung Ying covered her right cheek and pointed at Zhuowen as she shrieked. Her eyes were filled with hatred. "You are the one who is shameless. How can you blame me for this? When you stole my spiritual ring, you attacked me many times for no reason. Now, you are cursing at me like a shrew. Do you really think that I, Zhuowen, am your subordinate? That I can order you around?" Zhuowen slowly withdrew his right hand as if he had done something insignificant. He stood up and returned to the white-brow heavenly master's side. "Father, kill him. How dare he hit me? That bastard!" Lung Ying covered her swollen right cheek and screamed at Lung Feng hysterically. As the #1 genius of the Ruan clan, Lung Ying was always the center of attention wherever she went. However, today she had been slapped in the face by Zhuowen, a piece of trash that she looked down on. Moreover, what drove Lung Ying mad was that she didn't even see Zhuowen's shadow clearly before her right cheek was already swollen from Zhuowen's slap. This caused her to be both shocked and furious. She was shocked because Zhuowen's strength seemed to be much stronger than before, and she was furious because the trash from before actually dared to slap her face in front of her. "It seems like you are here to cause trouble today. Since that is the case, don't blame me for being rude." Lung Feng's face was cold. He finally released the aura of an ultimate Emperor Realm 8 wheels. He took a step forward and was about to attack Zhuowen. "What's going on? Why is it so noisy in the hall?" At this moment, a dignified voice sounded, causing Lung Feng's body to stiffen. He looked at the entrance of the hall and saw a middle-aged man with slightly white hair walk in. Although this middle-aged man's hair was white and he looked a little old, his spirit was extremely vigorous. His aura was also much stronger than Lungfeng's. He had probably reached the ultimate Emperor Realm 9 wheels. Father! Looking at this dignified middle-aged man, Ruan Lingyu's beautiful face immediately revealed a trace of joy. She quickly ran to the middle-aged man's side and pulled on his arm. Without a doubt, this middle-aged man was the head of the Ruan clan, Ruan Xianfeng. Father! He is the Zhuan that I told you about before. He has a way to expel the cold in my body. Ruan Lingyu's words caused Ruan Xuanfeng's gaze to freeze. He stared straight at Zhuan and said, "You really have a way to expel the cold in Lingyu's body?" "I'm not 100% sure, but I can try. Who knows, I might be able to solve it." Zhuan did not speak too confidently. "Although Lingyu said that you are her friend, this is the first time I've seen you, so I can't completely trust you. If you can tell me your method to expel the cold and prove that you do have a way, then I'll let you try." Ruan Xianfeng said calmly. Zhuan frowned slightly. Ruan Xuanfeng's attitude made Zhuan slightly uncomfortable. However, he came to help Ruan Lingyu expel the cold to fulfill his promise, so he did not mind too much. "Sure. However, this method can only be shown to you and Miss Lingyu. As for other people, forget about it. Who knows what other twisted theories they will come up with." Zhuan's words immediately caused Lung Feng's and Leng Ying's expressions to darken. They almost went berserk. This Zhuan's origin is unknown, and his cultivation is so low. I'm afraid he has some ulterior motives for coming to our Ruan clan. Head, please reconsider. Leng Feng said to Ruan Xianfeng in a deep voice. That's right. Patriarch, this Zhuan doesn't look like a good person at first glance. I'm afraid that he's not here to save Lingyu, but to harm her instead. We can't believe his one-sided words so easily. Leng Ying added. Zhuan was unmoved. He only said calmly, "Head of the Ruan clan. I think you're a reasonable person. Since my cultivation is low, if I really wanted to harm Miss Lingyu, why would I come in so openly?" Chapter 911. 10,000-year dark soul ice venomous insect. In a simple but elegant room, a soothing purple sandalwood fragrance filled the air, making people feel calm and serene. Zhua Xiaoyu, now can you tell me how to expel the cold from Lingyu's body? Ruan Xianfeng stared at Zhuan and asked calmly. Nodding his head, Zhuan stomped his foot, and 7 types of earth fire drilled out of his body. Shortly after, mental energy gushed out from his sea of consciousness, and he used the fire fusion art to fuse the 7 types of earth fire, turning them into a 7-colored phoenix that flew around his body. 7 types of earth fire? You're an arcanist? Ruan Xuanfeng's eyes narrowed when he saw the 7-colored phoenix revolving around Zhuo, and he revealed a trace of astonishment. It wasn't that he hadn't seen earth fire before, but he had never heard or seen 7 types of earth fire appearing on one person's body at the same time. Moreover, the young man in front of him used an incredible method to fuse the earth fire into a 7-colored phoenix fire. Even though Ruan Xianfeng was experienced and knowledgeable, he still found it hard to believe. This 7-colored phoenix is formed by fusing 7 types of earth fire. Its power is much stronger than ordinary earth fire, but it's much weaker than sky fire. It's a flame that's between earth fire and sky fire. As for the strange cold in Miss Lingyu's body, I've checked it last time. It's a strange cold that's between earth rank cold and sky rank cold. With the temperature of the 7-colored phoenix's flame, I think there's a high chance that it can expel the cold in Miss Lingyu's body. With a wave of his right hand, the 7-colored phoenix quietly stopped in Zhuowen's palm. Immediately, Zhuowen's gaze landed on Ruan Xianfeng. He knew it was time for Ruan Xianfeng to make a decision. Father, let young Master Zhua try. Maybe he can really expel the cold in my body completely, Ruan Lingyu said to Ruan Xianfeng. Sure. Then I'll leave everything to you, Zhua Xiaoyu. I hope Zhua Xiaoyu won't disappoint me. Ruan Xianfeng gently touched Ruan Lingyu's hair, then nodded to Zhuowen and left the room. Miss Lingyu, you need to lie on the bed first because the cold qi is located in your dantian. If I want to get rid of the cold qi, I have to start from your lower abdomen, Zhuan said to Ruan Lingyu cautiously. Hearing this, Ruan Lingyu shyly nodded her head. Soon after, she laid down on the bed with her eyes tightly shut. Her hands, which were placed beside the bed, were tightly clenched. Looking at Ruan Lingyu's appearance, Zhuowen rubbed his nose. If this scene were to be seen by others, it would easily cause criticism. However, Zhuowen did not think too much about it. He walked to the bedside and placed his right hand on Ruan Lingyu's flat stomach. Soon after, he spoke to Xiao He in his sea of consciousness. Xiao He. The cold qi in Miss Lingyu's dantian is very strange. Why don't you go in and take a look and see if you can recognize what this cold qi is? Yes. This dragon master will go and take a look first. Xiao He nodded her head and turned into a ray of black light that followed Zhuowen's palm and entered Ruan Lingyu's dantian. At this moment, Ruan Lingyu's cheeks were slightly flushed. Her hair was loosely tied up and scattered around the pillow. In addition to her rosy cheeks, Ruan Lingyu looked even more charming at this moment. However, Thuan did not notice this. Instead, he gently placed his right hand on Ruan Lingyu's dantian. His consciousness followed Xiao He and entered Ruan Lingyu's dantian through the meridians around her dantian. He saw that the cold qi in Ruan Lingyu's dantian was still vigorous. Many of the meridians around her dantian had been frozen by this cold qi, causing the yuan power that flowed through here to be blocked and unable to accumulate. The cold qi in Miss Lingyu's dantian seems to be much stronger than last time. How did it increase so quickly? Zhuowen's brows were tightly knitted together as he probed the cold qi in her dantian. At this moment, the cold qi in Ruan Lingyu's dantian was several times stronger than when Zhuowen had first encountered it a month ago. Now, it had almost frozen Ruan Lingyu's entire dantian. Moreover, this cold qi seemed to be spreading upwards. If this cold qi spread to Ruan Lingyu's heart, there would really be nothing that could be done. Suddenly, Xiao He said to Zhuowen in a serious tone, "This is the larva of the 10,000-year black soul ice parasite. It's not cold qi at all." The larva of the 10,000-year black soul ice parasite? What is that? Zhuowen's gaze was puzzled. He had never heard of this so-called 10,000-year black soul ice parasite that Xiao He spoke of, let alone seeing it before. This is an extremely vicious parasite poison. It said that this 10,000-year black soul ice parasite is extracted from the black ice layer of the 10,000-mile deep sea. Then, it uses some kind of secret method to make the 10,000-year black soul ice parasite produce larvae. And this larva must be planted on a girl born in the Yin year, Yin month, Yin day, Yin hour. Once planted, that girl will become the nourishment for this 10,000-year black soul ice parasite larva. When the girl reaches the age of 18, this 10,000-year black soul ice parasite larva will break out of its cocoon and transform into an extremely powerful black soul ice butterfly. This black soul ice butterfly is incredible. It has the powerful cultivation of the Xuanzuan realm's early stage as soon as it is born. Ordinary Xuanzuan realm cultivators might not be its match. Moreover, if it can be nurtured with a powerful earth-rank cold qi, or even a heaven-rank cold qi, the black soul ice butterfly can continue to grow, and its strength will become even more terrifying. In short, the 10,000-year black soul ice parasite is an extremely vicious and disgusting secret method. I really didn't expect that this dragon lord would still be able to see this secret method after 10,000 years. Xiao He's voice became especially serious and fearful, but Zhuowen's gaze was slightly focused. This method was truly vicious. It actually used the human body as the nourishment for the 10,000-year black soul ice parasite, causing it to break out of its cocoon and become a black soul ice butterfly. If the black soul ice parasite breaks out of its cocoon and becomes a butterfly, then what will happen to Miss Lingyu in the end? Zhuowen asked in a low voice. What else can happen? In the end, she will become the black soul ice butterfly's food and be devoured by it, Xiao He said coldly. Hearing this, Zhuowen's right hand, which was placed on Ruan Lingyu's abdomen, trembled, causing the latter's cheeks to become even redder. She exhaled a faint moan from her small mouth, causing one to feel incomparably numb. However, Thuan wasn't in the mood for that. Instead, his heart sank to the bottom. He really didn't know who was so vicious to actually plant such a vicious parasite in Ruan Lingyu's body. They really deserved to die. This dragon lord can sense the aura of the phoenix feather on this girl's body, right? Who gave this to this girl? Xiaohei suddenly asked coldly. Zhuan asked doubtfully, what's wrong? This phoenix feather was given to her by Xiaoyan Pu of the Xiaoyan aristocratic family. When Miss Lingyu received the phoenix feather, her complexion became much rosier than before. The effect is very good. Bullshit. Let me tell you, this phoenix feather has a certain catalytic effect on the growth of the 10,000-year black soul ice parasite larvae. If Wan Lingyu carries the phoenix feather for a long time, the larvae's growth will be many times faster than usual, Xiaohei said coldly. What? Many times faster than usual? Zhuowen's pupils shrank. If what Xiaohei said was true, then that Xiaoyan Pu's act of fawning over Wan Lingyu and taking the initiative to give away something as precious as the phoenix feather was really worth considering. Could it be that this matter has something to do with the Xiaoyan aristocratic family? Zhuan muttered in a low voice. Xiaohei shook his head and said, it's not a possibility, but a certainty. The timing of that Xiaoyan Pu giving away the phoenix feather was too coincidental. Moreover, the phoenix feather isn't something that can be casually given away. That Xiaoyan Pu probably knows some inside information. Then can you deal with the 10,000-year black soul ice parasite larvae in Miss Lingyu's dantian? Zhuowen asked seriously. Let's give it a try. Your 7-colored phoenix isn't simple either. Let's see if it can drive away the 10,000-year black soul ice parasite larvae. Kid, first, send the 7-colored phoenix into this girl's meridians. Then, let this dragon lord get rid of it. Zhuowen nodded. With a thought, the 7-colored phoenix circling around him let out a clear cry. Then, it passed through Zhuowen's palm and into Wan Lingyu's meridians through her abdomen. Once the 7-colored phoenix entered her meridians, it was enveloped by a viscous black energy. This black energy was Xiaohei's power. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Although the 7-colored phoenix was powerful, it wasn't enough to harm Wan Lingyu's meridians. Xiaohei guided the 7-colored phoenix closer to her dantian. When it arrived in front of her dantian, the 10,000-year black soul ice parasite larvae in her dantian seemed to have discovered something. A soft roar came from her dantian, and then a wisp of blue cold air followed the meridians in her dantian and swept towards Xiaohei. This bastard, Xiaohei cursed angrily. Then, the black energy that enveloped the 7-colored phoenix slowly faded away. The blue cold air also arrived, but it was shattered by the 7-colored phoenix's claw. Then, an even more terrifying cold air was released from her dantian. Fortunately, the 7-colored phoenix's power wasn't inferior to the 10,000-year black soul ice parasite larvae. It dissolved the cold air one by one, and finally, after half an hour, it entered her dantian. In her dantian, there was an endless amount of blue cold air. In the center of the cold air, there was an oval ice chrysalis that was formed from a blue ice crystal. This ice chrysalis was translucent. In the chrysalis, there was a milky white fat worm lying motionless. However, the worm's green eyes were staring coldly at Xiaohei and the 7-colored phoenix, who had just appeared. Now that you are at the critical moment of breaking out of your cocoon and becoming a butterfly, are you going to come out and bite me? Xiaohei floated in front of the ice chrysalis smugly. She crossed her arms in front of her chest and raised her chin, looking very disdainful. Under Xiaohei's instructions, the 7-colored phoenix began to use its powerful flame to expel the surrounding cold air. Sizzle! The 10,000-year black soul ice parasite larvae in the ice chrysalis was anxious. If it wanted to break out of its cocoon and become a butterfly, it had to exist in an extremely cold place. Soon, it would be able to hatch out of Wan Lingyu's dantian, but now that Xiaohei had messed things up, it had completely lost its chance to break out of its cocoon and become a butterfly. Chapter 9:12. Slander. It's so hot. Young Master Zhuo, why do I feel so hot? On the bed, Wan Lingyu's delicate body was wriggling. Her beautiful face was already flushed red, and her fair forehead was covered with fine beads of sweat. At this moment, Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. Naturally, he had also noticed Wan Lingyu's strange state. A trace of worry appeared on his face. He did not know if Xiao He had gotten rid of the 10,000-year black soul ice parasite larva in Ruan Lingyu's dantian. Zhuowen's left hand pinched lightly, and a wisp of cold air gushed out from the ice saint talisman, carefully wrapping around Ruan Lingyu. Even so, Ruan Lingyu still felt abnormally hot, and her cheeks were flushed red. I wonder what Xiao He is doing inside? Zhuan muttered to himself anxiously. Zhuan felt a little worried looking at Ruan Lingyu's current state. If someone were to barge into the room at this moment, it would be easy to be misunderstood. Just as Zhuan was at his wits' end, the crisp sound of the door opening suddenly rang out. Lung Feng and Lung Ying suddenly barged in, staring coldly at Zhuan, who was in the room, and Ruan Lingyu, who was already lying on the bed with a flushed face. Zhuan, you are indeed a lecher. You actually used the excuse of getting rid of the cold air to sneak into Lingyu's side and try to ruin her purity. You shameless person. Ruan Lingyu's strange state was naturally seen by Lung Feng and Lung Ying. Ruan Xianfeng, who was following behind Lung Feng and Lung Ying, also had an ugly expression. His gaze toward Zhuan also became extremely cold. Ruan family head. Didn't I say just now? While I'm getting rid of the cold air for Miss Lingyu, you are not allowed to barge in. What is the meaning of this now? Zhuan said coldly. So hot, so hot. At this moment, Ruan Lingyu was lying on the bed with her eyes closed. She softly moaned and began to tear off her clothes. Zhuan's eyelids twitched. He had already cursed Xiao He countless times in his heart. Why did she have to do this at this moment? Wasn't she trying to trick him? However, Zhuan also believed that Ruan Lingyu's heat was related to the seven-colored phoenix. Once Xiao He got rid of the cold air in Ruan Lingyu's body, the heat would gradually fade away. Ruan Xuanfeng's expression was extremely cold. He stared at Zhuowen and asked coldly, "What did you do to Lingyu? Why is she acting like this?" Ruan Lingyu's face. Zhuowen's, Lung Feng and Lung Ying, Lung Feng and Lung's, Feng and Lung masters to barge in without Lung and have of Lingyu's. The seven-colored phoenix has already entered Miss Lingyu's dantian. It's currently expelling the cold air in her dantian. This is caused by the seven-colored phoenix's temperature. Now that it was the crucial moment for Xiao He to expel the cold air, Zhuan naturally didn't want to stir up any more trouble. He could only give a brief explanation. I don't think Patriarch Ruan wants to harm his daughter, right? Zhuan asked coldly. How dare you? A little bastard like you actually dares to threaten Lord Patriarch. I think you are courting death. Lung Yingyu pointed her finger at Zhuowen, and put a big hat on Zhuowen. Turning his head slightly, Zhuowen stared coldly at Lung Ying and said, "Which dog's ears of yours heard that I threatened your patriarch? If you want to condemn someone, you can always find a pretext." You mean we're slandering you? Now that Lingyu is lying on the bed and making such unsightly sounds, isn't this your doing? Also, let me tell you, Lingyu is already engaged to Xiaoyan Pu from the Xiaoyan family. Now that you've ruined Lingyu's chastity, a shameless person like you won't be able to walk out of my Ruan family today. Lung Feng stood beside Lung Ying and looked down at Zhuan with indifference. Zhuan sneered in his heart and asked Ruan Xianfeng, "Patriarch Ruan, is this what you're thinking?" Ruan Xuanfeng's eyes flickered, but he was unusually silent. He didn't answer Zhuowen's question directly. Obviously, he also agreed with Zhuowen's words. Lecher, do you think that the patriarch will still believe your bullshit words? What a joke. Do you think all of us in the Ruan family are 3-year-old children? Do you really think I don't know the dirty thoughts in your heart? You want to take the opportunity to tarnish Lingyu's chastity and use it to climb up the Ruan family's branch? Let me tell you now, you lowly piece of trash, the Ruan family is not for people like you to climb up the social ladder. Lung Ying was pushing her luck. Her right hand pointed at Zhuowen's nose and her words were as harsh and merciless as a sharp sword. A black silhouette abruptly appeared in front of Lung Ying. After which, a palm stretched out, grabbing Lung Ying by the neck. Lung Ning was unable to continue speaking because the strength of the palm was too great. She couldn't even breathe properly, let alone speak. Zhuan's attack was too fast. Ruan Xianfeng and Lung Feng didn't even have time to react. After all, they didn't expect Zhuan to suddenly attack. Even more so, they didn't expect Zhuowen's speed to be so fast. What a thief! How dare you! Leng Feng was stunned. Then he was enraged. He shouted and threw his right palm at Zhuowen. Bang! Terrifying energy poured out. Then, the floor of the room shattered into countless pieces under Leng Feng's terrifying strength, forming a huge pit. Leng Feng's attack only hit Zhuowen's shadow. After Zhuowen restrained Leng Ying, he flew back and stood beside the bed. Zhuowen didn't look at Leng Feng and Ruan Xianfeng. Instead, he looked at the injured Leng Ying and said, "There's a limit to a person's patience. I, Zhuowen, didn't want to bicker with a bitch like you. But your mouth is too despicable, and it makes me very uncomfortable. Now, let me teach you how to speak in the future." Slap. The crisp sound of a slap rang out. Leng Ying's right cheek was red and swollen. There was even a horrifying bruise. Jun didn't hold back at all. Leng Ying's cheek was swollen. You bastard, you dare to hit me again? What right do you have to hit me? I want you dead." Leng Ying almost went crazy. Zhuowen had already slapped her in the hall. Now, she was slapped by Zhuowen again. With Leng Ying's arrogant personality, how could she endure such humiliation? "What right do I have to hit you?" Zhuowen's voice became even colder. He slapped Leng Ying again, and the left side of her face swelled up. The bruise didn't stop there, and blood flowed from the corner of Leng Ying's mouth. "Little bastard! Let go of Leng Ying, or I'll make you die a horrible death." Leng Feng's eyes were bloodshot. Seeing his own daughter being slapped by Zhuowen, it was easy to imagine how terrible his feelings were. "You want me to die a horrible death? Why don't you try?" "Originally, I, Zhuowen, came to the Ruan family to fulfill my promise with Miss Lingyu. I didn't think of asking for a reward from the Ruan family. Unfortunately, that bitch Leng Ying mocked and ridiculed me the moment she came. And you, as an elder, took advantage of your seniority and ordered me around like a servant just because you're an elder of the Ruan family. Then let me ask you, I, Zhuowen, am not a member of the Ruan family. What right do you have to order me around? Also, you said that I can't be associated with the Ruan family. Do you really think that the Ruan family is so powerful that I, Zhuowen, need to be associated with them? And Ruan Xianfeng, as the head of the Ruan family, you went back on your words and barged into my room. The Ruan family is the most despicable family I've ever seen." Zhuowen held Leng Ying in his right hand. His face was as cold as the winter. Since the Ruan family was so heartless, then don't blame him, Zhuowen, for being unjust. Enough. Just as Zhuowen and Leng Feng were about to confront each other, Ruan Xianfeng finally spoke up. His face was extremely gloomy, and at the same time, he was a little surprised by Zhuowen. The young man's aura was clearly only at the second wheel of the ultimate emperor realm, but even he hadn't been able to react in time when Zhuowen had captured Leng Ying. Zhuowen's speed wasn't something an ordinary ultimate emperor realm cultivator could display. As soon as Ruan Xianfeng said this, Leng Feng, who was about to attack, froze. He turned around and said to Ruan Xianfeng, "Patriarch, this kid is too arrogant. He actually kidnapped Leng Ying in front of us and even slapped her in front of us. How can we tolerate such a vile situation?" Ruan Xianfeng didn't answer Leng Feng. Instead, he stared at Zhuowen and said, "How confident are you in expelling the cold qi from Lingyu's body?" "More than 80%. As long as you give me time, the cold qi that has accumulated in Miss Lingyu's dantian will be completely expelled," Zhuowen replied coldly. "Then I'll trust you one more time. This time, we're standing in this room. I can't guarantee that if you're alone with my daughter in this room, nothing bad will happen," Ruan Xianfeng said indifferently. "As you wish," Zhuowen replied. However, he was sneering in his heart. This Ruan Xianfeng's words were pretty nice. He said that he would trust him one more time. Now that something like this had happened, he couldn't see any sincerity in Ruan Xianfeng's words. "Then can you let Leng Ying go?" Leng Feng said coldly. "This bitch is an eyesore to me. Get her out of here." Zhuowen casually tossed Leng Ying aside, causing Leng Feng to hurriedly reach out to catch Leng Ying's body. Looking at Leng Ying, who was on the verge of delirium and whose cheeks were swollen, Leng Feng felt like killing someone. "You're really something. I'll remember today's incident." You'd better be careful in Yen City. Otherwise, if you accidentally die on the road one day, you can't blame anyone. Lung Feng glared at Zhuan coldly, then carried Lung Ying out of the room. At this moment, only Ruan Xianfeng, Nun, Heavenly Master by Mei, and Ruan Lingyu were left in the room. Ruan Xianfeng stood quietly at the door. His sharp eyes stared at Ruan Lingyu, who was on the bed, and he was deep in thought. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.